Chapter 653. Today was a clear day. The sea breeze of early summer was warm, but it wasn't hot. When it came from the sea was covered in a moist aura that made people want to lie down and fall asleep. Sui forcefully shook his head and threw out this bit of sleepiness. Today was the day the new flyer's first voyage fleet set sail. This ceremony was very important and they couldn't miss it. "Sir Chairman, are you all right?" Narvel on the side saw Sui's actions and asked with a bit of worry. "I'm fine." Sui took a deep breath and there was a bit of sea smell in his mouth. Although he felt a bit disgusted, his mind became a bit better. Turning to look at Narvel, who was completely tanned, Sui couldn't help smiling. Narvel, who was appointed as the commander of the first voyage fleet by Sui, was very excited. He had been on the Unfolding Wings ship, the newly built Morning Sun, and the goddess of victory Iris all day, turning himself into charcoal. "Is everything prepared?" Sui asked with a smile. "Yes, it's all ready." Narvel nodded. Narvel gave a strong nod. "We can set off at any time." "Good, then the ceremony can officially begin." Sui nodded and walked onto the stage that had already been set up on the beach. Because of this ceremony, there was a large group of people gathered on the beach. Most of them were the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's employees, and the rest were the surrounding residents who came to watch the fun. There were also people who came from other countries after receiving the news. As for the stage, there was the envoy sent by the Kingdom of Ruhr, which was Newman. Because the first destination of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's fleet was the largest harbor city in the south of the Rudsun Kingdom, Nissi City. On the 3 large magic boats, there were large amounts of magic machines that were being transported to the Kingdom of Ruhr. Although this trip would take half a month, which was much slower compared to the less than 2 days on the Skew Road, the 3 large magic boats had a shocking load of 15,000 tons. The current Frestec Chamber of Commerce's largest transport magic car only had a capacity of 20 tons. With these 3 magic boats, it was equivalent to the large transport magic cars making 750 trips, which was much more efficient. Moreover, because the magic boats went by sea, they had a large advantage in terms of energy consumption compared to the large transport magic cars. For this trip, even if it was a round trip, according to the calculations of the Academy of Magic, it would only cost around 100 tons of high-concentration magic crystals. The total price wouldn't exceed 20,000 gold coins. If they used the large transport magic car, even if they took the most convenient Strew Road, it would cost around 50 gold coins to make a round trip. For 750 trips, it would cost 37,500 gold coins, which was double the cost of going by sea. The more important thing was that to transport 15,000 tons of goods by land, it would take many trips, which would create a large amount of pressure on the Strew Road. Of course, land transport had the advantage of being shorter and not being limited by the port, so it couldn't be said that it was completely suppressed by sea transport. Sui came to the stage and exchanged smiles with Newman before announcing the beginning of the ceremony. The opening ceremony of the fleet was just a normal process. Sui introduced the composition and uses of the fleet, as well as explaining the powerful meaning of this fleet to everyone. Then Newman represented the Kingdom of Ruhr to express the importance and welcome of the Kingdom of Ruhr to this fleet. After that, Narvel came to the stage to give a speech on behalf of the new fleet. While expressing his excitement, he also passionately told everyone that he would do his best to lead this fleet and work hard to open the sea route for the new flyer. After the thunderous applause, Sui came to the stage again and announced that the fleet would be setting off. Everyone's eyes turned to the Shinfei harbor by the sea. The Unfolding Wings, the Morning Sun, and the goddess of victory Iris had already stopped at the harbor and had already made their preparations. Narvel took the scepter that represented command from Sui's hands and boarded the new flyer's newly developed magic sedan. He stopped the car and drove it to the harbor in a majestic manner. When he boarded the Unfolding Wings, Countless brilliant fireworks exploded on the beach at the same time, accompanied by countless brilliant colors that had magical effects, reflecting the entire beach in a dazzling light. Then the three giant magic boats gave a loud roar at the same time, which was the large magic cannons on the three ships that fired in response. After a while, the unfolding wings trembled before slowly leaving the harbor. When the unfolding wings left the harbor, the morning sun and the goddess of victory Iris followed behind. The three magic boats were rather slow at first, but when they were far away from the coast, they gradually sped up. Not long after, they turned into three black dots on the sea before disappearing into the sea. Sui looked away from the sea and let out a soft sigh. "Are you very worried?" Newman on the side asked with a smile. "It would be a lie if I said I wasn't worried," Sui said with a smile. After all, this is our company's first voyage fleet, and this first voyage is over 2,000 kilometers. It wouldn't be strange if there were any accidents on the way. There's no need to be afraid even if there's an accident. Newman looked very confident. Newman said with a confident look, "These three large ships, they are much stronger than any wooden ship. Even those small wooden ships could sail from the Principality of Constantine to the seas of our Kingdom of Ruhr. How could these three ships not be able to do it?" Sui shook his head. "Accidents on the sea are too unpredictable. Although we've made enough preparations, I'm still worried that something unexpected will happen." "That's not something we can control, is it?" Newman shrugged. Newman gave a shrug. "Anyway, we've made enough preparations, so we'll leave the rest to them." Sui was silent for a bit before nodding. I'm worried about this. I should have confidence in them." "That's right." Newman patted Sui's shoulder with a smile. Sui also revealed a smile. Actually, the reason why he was more worried than Newman was because these three magic boats might be considered first-class ships on the signs, but they weren't enough on Earth at all. Those ships on Earth that were equipped with high technology and even had GPS satellites could have accidents on the sea. These magic boats that were countless times weaker had a much higher chance of accidents happening. Of course, this was also because Sui and Newman had different angles of view. From Newman's point of view, these three magic boats were without a doubt much stronger than those simple wooden ships, so it was impossible for anything to happen to them. Right, speaking of accidents on the sea. Actually, between the seas of the Principality of Constantine and our Kingdom of Ruhr, there are many pirates. While saying this, Newman suddenly revealed a self-deprecating smile and shook his head. "All right, there's no need for my worries. If my guesses aren't wrong, you must have large amounts of military magic machines on those three ships, right?" Sui laughed and didn't reply. Newman immediately revealed a knowing smile, but he didn't ask any more questions. The three magic boats disappeared into the depths of the sea, and the ceremony naturally ended. Sui invited Newman to his manor as a guest. Newman coming here this time wasn't as simple as just attending this ceremony. He also brought the decree of His Majesty Tarek. "Chairman Su, His Majesty wants to deepen the relationship between our Kingdom of Ruhr and your new flyer, so he hopes that your new flyer can increase your investment in our kingdom. According to the statistics, your new flyer has already invested in 37 household magic machine factories in our Kingdom of Ruhr, which isn't a small amount. But compared to the 143 magic machine factories you've built with the Lampari Kingdom, it's far lacking," Newman said with a serious look. Sui revealed a faint smile. "This can't be compared to begin with. The Lampari Kingdom is where our new flyer was established, so our company has the deepest roots in the Lampari Kingdom, so naturally we have the most factories in the Lampari Kingdom." Newman nodded. His Majesty can understand this, but His Majesty feels that since our kingdom supports your new flyer more than the Lampari Kingdom, Chairman Su, why don't you consider increasing your investment in our Lampari Kingdom? You have to know. Last year your new flyer paid over 1 million gold coins in taxes in our kingdom, so there's no need for me to mention the profits. Su-yi was silent for a bit before saying with a nod, I know that His Majesty Tarek supports our company, and I'm very grateful. As for increasing our investment in your Kingdom of Ruhr, I've been making plans in this regard. According to the plan, in the second half of this year, we hope to increase our investment in your Kingdom of Ruhr by 2 million gold coins and have already reached cooperation agreements with 26 companies in your kingdom. That's not enough. Newman suddenly interrupted Su-yi and stared at Su-yi with bright eyes. Chairman Su, you should be able to guess what I mean. The cooperation His Majesty is talking about, apart from the household magic machines, is more important. It's the military magic machines. Chapter 654. After hearing Newman's words, Su-yi fell silent. If possible, of course he wanted New Flyer to control all the military magic machine technology and not leak it, because only then could he maintain his advantage in terms of strength and control the situation better. However, he was very clear in his heart that whether it was in the Lampari Kingdom's civil war or the New Flyers' counterattack against Duke Wine and the Sack Kingdom's army, the military magic machines had displayed incomparable might, so there was no way they wouldn't leak it. The Kandla Empire was several thousand kilometers away, and in this undeveloped signs, naturally they couldn't obtain any information on the might of the military magic machines in these two wars. So the Kandla Empire was only a bit interested in the military magic machines, but they weren't active at all. It was enough for Su-yi to easily fool Ambassador Hakkinen. However, the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Lampari Kingdom, and the Principality of Constantine were neighbors, so they had many deep connections. Of course they had investigated the details of these two wars, so they had a deep understanding of the might of the military magic machines. The Kingdom of Ruhr being interested in the military magic machines was something that was bound to happen. Su-yi had already expected this. According to Su-yi's plan, he had already prepared to open a part of the military magic machines to the Kingdom of Ruhr. The only problem was how much. After thinking for a bit, Su-yi asked with a smile, I wonder which military magic machines is His Majesty interested in? All of them. Newman drew a large circle and said with a serious look, Chairman Su, His Majesty hopes to obtain all the technology related to the military magic machines. That is impossible. Su-yi flatly rejected. As for the military magic machines, there are many related technologies that our company is still researching, so we can't transfer them. Moreover, to be blunt, even if we were willing to transfer them, your Kingdom of Ruhr wouldn't be able to make the corresponding military magic machines. Newman laughed, not caring about Su-yi's words at all. This isn't a problem. As long as your New Flyer is willing to cooperate, I think we can grasp it. Su-yi shook his head. Newman, making the military magic machines requires a complete system. It doesn't mean that you can immediately make them if we transfer the technology to you. Even if you have the technical foundation, you don't have the necessary materials and manpower, so it's impossible for you to master the manufacturing of military magic machines right now. Newman looked into Su-yi's eyes and Su-yi calmly looked into his eyes, not looking away at all. What he said was the truth. The Kingdom of Ruhr had only cooperated with the New Flyer for less than 2 years, so the magic machine industry was still very weak. Up to now, the Kingdom of Ruhr couldn't even make a single magic fan, so how could they grasp the military magic machines that required even higher technology? Newman was silent for a bit before saying in a deep voice, Chairman Su, to be honest, His Majesty is very interested in the military magic machines mainly because of the Lampari Kingdom. Su-yi revealed a look of understanding. Newman's words were quite straightforward. Compared to the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Lampari Kingdom was cooperating with the New Flyer, grasping some of the lower-level military magic machines. Moreover, they had equipped the Lampari Kingdom's army with magic-repeating crossbows and magic rocket launchers, which greatly increased the battle strength of the Lampari Kingdom's army. Over a month ago, the Lampari Kingdom's northern army had entered the Sac Kingdom's territory from the north of the Muerto Mountains, clashing with the Sac Kingdom's greedy army. In these clashes, the Lampari Kingdom's northern army had won and chased the Sac Kingdom's greedy army out of the Muerto Mountains, making the Sac Kingdom lose control of the Muerto Mountains. Because of this, the Sac Kingdom had lost the natural barrier of the Muerto Mountains. Instead, the entire kingdom was exposed to the threat of the Lampari Kingdom's northern army. In the several hundred years since the Lampari Kingdom was founded, this was the second time the Lampari Kingdom had taken the initiative to attack the Sac Kingdom, and they had won both times. Moreover, in these two battles, the decisive factor was the military magic machines that the Northern Army had equipped. The Lampari Kingdom's strange actions naturally attracted the attention of the surrounding countries. Even if the Kingdom of Ruhr had always been an ally of the Lampari Kingdom, they had also noticed this. The Kingdom of Ruhr was interested in the military magic machines mainly because they wanted to maintain a balance of power with the Lampari Kingdom. Su-Yi was silent for a bit before replying. I understand His Majesty Tarek's worries, but Newman, since you're this honest, I'll also tell you the truth. With your Kingdom of Ruhr's current magic machine industry, it is impossible for you to grasp the manufacturing process of the military magic machines in a short period of time. If you're worried about the Lampari Kingdom, the most realistic method is to buy the military magic machines from our company to increase the strength of your army. Newman looked at Su-Yi with a strange look. Chairman Su, you're rejecting the military magic machine technology because you want to sell it to us, right? Su-Yi revealed a grin. You can say this, but I'm not lying at all. The final decision will be made by His Majesty Tarek. Newman was silent for a bit before giving a sigh and nodding. All right, I'll tell His Majesty the truth. After pausing for a bit, a smile appeared on his face again. Let's leave this matter for now. Let's return to the topic from before, regarding the new flyer's investment in our Kingdom of Ruhr. His Majesty has said that he can give your company many benefits, mainly focusing on ####. After sending Newman off, Su-Yi sat on the stool and fell into deep thought. It was clear that the surrounding countries had already realized the power of the military magic machines and were using all kinds of methods to equip their armies with military magic machines to increase their strength. Because the Lampari Kingdom had a natural advantage, they were a lot ahead of the other countries in this aspect. So far, the Lampari Kingdom not only had priority in obtaining military magic machines from the new flyer, they had also built several military magic machine factories and had already grasped the manufacturing process for magic repeating crossbows and small magic bazookas. Because the other countries didn't have the deep connection between the Lampari Kingdom and the new flyer, the best method was to directly buy military magic machines from the new flyer. In this aspect, the Drake Duchy and the Mirando Duchy were more thorough. These two duchies were small countries and didn't have that many armies, so they directly bought all the military magic machines they could from the new flyer. Compared to the Lampari Kingdom, the military magic machines of these two small duchies were more complete and high-end. Of course, they were limited by the number of troops, so their battle strength couldn't compare to the Lampari Kingdom. The Kingdom of Ruhr was different from these two small duchies. According to the statistics, the Kingdom of Ruhr had over 100,000 troops, and there were over 60,000 troops under the royal family. If they followed the Drake Duchy and Mirando Duchy's instructions to equip the military magic machines, they would need to spend over 20 million gold coins. Even if the Kingdom of Ruhr's economic conditions were much better than the Lampari Kingdom's, the terrifying amount of 20 million gold coins was far from what they could afford. So the Kingdom of Ruhr wanted to obtain the technology for the military magic machines, so it was natural for them to make their own. But like Su-Yi said, the Kingdom of Ruhr's magic machine industry was weak, so they couldn't make their own military magic machines. So their more realistic method was to directly buy from the new flyer. As long as they didn't buy high-level military magic machines like the large magic bazookas, the cost was still acceptable. Not to mention that the Lampari kingdom's main enemy was the Sac kingdom, so the kingdom of Ruhr had enough time to change their army. Su-yi was certain that after King Tarik considered it, he would agree to this in the end. In the end, the kingdom of Ruhr wasn't a giant like the Kanla Empire, so it was impossible for them to invade the Principality of Constantine and take the new flyer. This was something that Duke Wine couldn't do with the support of the Sac kingdom, so the kingdom of Ruhr wouldn't overestimate themselves. Thinking of the Sac kingdom again, Su-yi had a question in his heart. Because of the close relationship between the new flyer and the Lampari kingdom, and because the Sac kingdom had even supported Duke Wine in attacking the new flyer, it was impossible for the new flyer to cooperate with the Sac kingdom. If the Sac kingdom wanted to obtain the technology for the military magic machines from the new flyer, it was impossible for them to buy the military magic machines. But the Sac kingdom was clear on the powerful use of the military magic machines, so naturally they wouldn't give up on their desire for this. If they couldn't obtain it on the surface, the Sac kingdom would definitely make a move in the dark. As for what this move was, Su-yi didn't have any information, so he couldn't make any predictions. While he was thinking about this, there were several knocks on the door. Su-yi looked up in surprise and saw Teresa standing at the open door with a look of deep sadness on her face. Chapter 655. Su-yi was a bit surprised. He quickly stood up and asked in a concerned voice, "Teresa, what is it? Did something happen?" Teresa looked up and there were tears in her large eyes. There were even tears coming out of the corners of her eyes, but she forced herself to not cry. Seeing her like this, Su-yi felt strange. Since Teresa had been accidentally saved by him in Banta City, it had been 3 years now. In these 3 years of contact, Su-yi knew that this beautiful and delicate little girl had a very strong heart. She would never reveal her weak heart in front of others, but now that she had this kind of expression, she must have encountered something that made her very sad. Thinking of this, Su-yi took a deep breath and asked in a gentle voice, "Teresa, just tell me if you have any difficulties. You've been here for 3 years and I've already treated you as family, so there's nothing you can't tell me." Teresa looked at Su-yi in a daze for a while as tears kept coming out of her eyes. Finally, the tears gathered in the corners of her eyes and fell down her face. Sir Chairman, I. After saying 2 words, Teresa suddenly squatted down and hugged her knees as she began to sob. Seeing Teresa fall into sadness, Su-yi didn't know what to do. He rarely comforted a crying girl, so he didn't know what to do at this time. Thinking about it, he said with a sigh, "I'll go find Steel. If you have something that isn't convenient for you to tell me, you can tell her, it's all the same." However, when Su-yi took a step, he felt his pants being pulled. Turning to look, he found that Teresa's little hand was tightly grabbing Su-yi's pants. She looked up at Su-yi with a pleading look in her eyes. Su-yi felt strange. Just what did Teresa encounter that she didn't find anyone else to talk to and came looking for him? "How about I go find Evita?" Su-yi tried asking. Teresa had been working at the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce for the past few years, so she had contact with Evita. Evita had praised her many times in front of Su-yi because of her outstanding work, so Su-yi felt that she should have a close relationship with Evita. Then again, they were both young girls and Evita was a few years older than Teresa, so it should be easier for them to communicate. But Teresa shook her head, looking like she wanted to say something. Su-yi was a bit helpless. After thinking about it, he pulled Teresa up and looked into her eyes as he seriously said, "Teresa, I just said, I've always treated you as family. So no matter what problems you encounter, you can talk to me as family. If I can help you, I'll help you. Do you understand what I mean?" Teresa stared at Su-yi in a daze for a while before slowly nodding. "All right, sit down and tell me what happened." Su-yi pointed at the chair on the side and then sat down. Teresa gritted her teeth and finally sat down on the chair. Looking at Su Yi's sincere gaze, Teresa's face dimmed. After a while, she said softly, "Chairman, I've been by your side for 3 years, but you've never asked me where I came from, right?" Su Yi nodded and calmly said, "Everyone has their own secrets, I won't force people to tell me. Since you don't want to say, I won't ask. Anyways, I only know that you're called Teresa." Su Yi was lying. In fact, there was suddenly a stranger in the house. Even if the stranger was beautiful, weak, and looked like a harmless little rabbit, Su Yi wouldn't accept her so easily. After accepting Teresa, Su Yi used many connections to investigate Teresa's true situation. However, this Teresa seemed to have popped out of a rock. There was almost no information about her in the Lampari kingdom. This made Su Yi very suspicious of her. With Teresa's outstanding upbringing, she should be from a noble family. Also, with her outstanding appearance, she should have some fame. But after investigating, there was almost no relevant information. This was really strange. So in the beginning, Su Yi was actually a bit wary of Teresa. Even when Teresa later showed her magic talent and extraordinary understanding of magic machines and entered the Academy of Magic, Su Yi secretly controlled her and didn't let her get close to the core research. But Teresa stayed here for more than 3 years. Although there was still no information about her, Teresa had been acting very normal in these 3 years. Over time, Su Yi gradually ignored the problem of her identity and treated her as an ordinary girl. At most, her background was a bit strange. Moreover, more than a year ago, Teresa used Su Yi as an excuse to move out and live in the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce's dormitory. Besides coming back to meet Su Yi, Steele, and the others every few days to eat, she didn't have much contact with Su Yi recently. She suddenly ran over today and revealed this kind of excited expression in front of Su Yi. It really was a bit strange. Hearing Su Yi's words, Teresa's expression became a bit excited. She took a few deep breaths before giving a strong nod. After pausing for a bit, she said in a small voice, Sir Chairman, do you remember when you saved me 3 years ago?" Su Yi revealed a faint smile. "Of course I remember. When you fainted in front of me, I thought that you were a little beggar. After I brought you back and took a shower, I found that I had picked up a stunning beauty." Teresa forced out a smile before revealing a sad look. She took another deep breath before continuing, "Sir Chairman, at that time, I had escaped for over 2,000 kilometers. I didn't have the strength to continue running and I didn't have the will to continue living. If you didn't help me, I would have died on the streets of Banta City." Escaped for over 2,000 kilometers? Su Yi keenly noticed the main point in Teresa's words. The Lampari Kingdom wasn't a superpower, whether it was east to west or north to south. It couldn't be over 2,000 kilometers. Even if Banta City was to the south of the Lampari Kingdom, if Teresa came from over 2,000 kilometers away, it was only possible that she came from another country. Seeing Su Yi's surprised expression, Teresa gave a slight nod. "Yes, Sir Chairman, I never told you where I came from because I didn't come from anywhere in the Lampari Kingdom, rather. I came from the Sac Kingdom." Su Yi's eyes opened a bit wider before calming down. Although this answer was surprising, when Su Yi thought about it, he didn't feel that it was that surprising. Only this answer could explain why Su Yi couldn't find any news about Teresa in the Lampari Kingdom. The Sac Kingdom was the enemy of the Lampari Kingdom, so it was naturally very difficult to investigate the Sac Kingdom. Thinking about it, Su Yi said with a faint smile, "It's fine if you come from the Sac Kingdom. Although the Sac Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom are enemies, that doesn't mean that everyone in the Sac Kingdom is an enemy. Teresa, you don't need to feel burdened by this." Teresa looked at Su Yi with a trace of gratitude in her eyes. "Sir Chairman, I know that you've always been this magnanimous. You even treat slaves as equals, so I believe that you won't have any prejudice against me coming from the Sac Kingdom. But I did escape to the Lampari Kingdom, and the people of the Lampari Kingdom aren't as magnanimous as Sir Chairman, so I could only hide my identity. Sir Chairman, you won't blame me, right? Sui gave a shrug. Of course I won't blame you. But Teresa, after all this time, you still haven't gotten to the main point. You've already been here for 3 years and you said that you escaped from the Sack Kingdom, so no matter what you did before or why you escaped, after 3 years, everything should be in the past. Why are you, like this today? It would have been better if he didn't ask, but once he did, Teresa revealed a sad look and tears came out of her large eyes. Sui silently looked at Teresa with her head down in tears, waiting for her to continue. If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted to talk to him, Teresa wouldn't be like this in front of him. According to what she just said, the thing that could make her this sad was related to her escaping from the Sack Kingdom. Sui saved Teresa back then, but he didn't tell anyone else about her other than Steele. Even if he had people investigate Teresa, it was done in secret. So now that Teresa met something like this, the first thing she would think of was Sui, which was a natural thing. Teresa was a strong girl after all. After silently crying for a while, she gently wiped her tears and raised her head. She reached into her chest and took out a neatly folded newspaper. Sui took it and found that there were clear traces of wetness on the newspaper. He thought that it was probably caused by Teresa's tears when she saw this newspaper. When he opened the newspaper, he found that it was a Lampuri weekly. Sui looked at Teresa with knit brows and Teresa said in a soft voice, "Sir Chairman, please look at page 7. Page 7? Sui slightly knit his brows. If he didn't remember wrong, pages 7 to 8 of the Lampuri Weekly reported on the news of the surrounding countries. He turned to the 7th page as he was told. What entered his eyes was a line of titles that were so wet that even the ink was a little messy, causing the words to be unclear. The Sack Kingdom's Demeek City's financial officer, Viscount Dorakalin, is suspected of treason and has been sentenced to be executed. Sui suddenly looked up at Teresa, who had a sad look on her face. Teresa took a deep breath. Viscount Dorakalin is my father. Chapter 656. Night gradually covered the sky. Seeing Teresa's lavender dress disappear into the darkness outside the manor, Sui couldn't help giving a sigh. Teresa had finally revealed her background to him, but in this situation, he really didn't expect it. Based on the report in the Lampuri Weekly, Teresa could be considered a loner now. Treason, whether it was in the Lampari Kingdom or the Sack Kingdom, or even in any country on the continent, it was the most serious crime. Since Viscount Dorakalin was involved in treason, there was no doubt that he would be executed by his entire clan. If it wasn't for Teresa leaving home early, she would have been sent to the execution ground and might have met an even more tragic fate. However, this was exactly what made Teresa feel extremely sad. According to Teresa's description, when she left home and entered the Lampari Kingdom, Viscount Dorakalin didn't say anything to her at all. He just had his confidant send her here. After coming here, the confidant told her about Viscount Dorakalin's orders. He told her not to return to the Sack Kingdom and to find a place to live in the Lampari Kingdom. Viscount Dorakalin had already arranged a path of retreat for Teresa through his connections in the Lampari Kingdom, but he never thought that as soon as she entered the Lampari Kingdom, she would be sold out to the Lampari Kingdom. In order to protect Teresa, Viscount Dorakalin's confidant died in battle and only Teresa managed to escape in disguise. Although Teresa wanted to secretly run back to the Sack Kingdom and ask Viscount Dorakalin about this, she couldn't find a way at all. In order to avoid her pursuers, Teresa could only head south, going further and further away from the Sack Kingdom. In the end, she used her magician abilities to escape to Banta City, but she had lost all her strength on the road and she almost lost the will to live because of the uncertainty in everything. If it wasn't for the fact that I had to know why Father sent me out, I would have already given up on myself. When Teresa said this, there was a strong look in her eyes, but it quickly became filled with sadness. But now that I know the answer, I find that there's nothing I can do. Sue could only be silent. No one could remain calm after learning that their entire family had died. Not to mention that Teresa was such a delicate little girl. But Sue could only sympathize with Teresa's situation and couldn't do anything about it. Viscount Doricaron's entire family was executed because he was suspected of treason. It wasn't related to Sue at all. Even if Sue wanted to care about this matter, it's not a matter at all. This was the sacked kingdom's TSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSS Vivian, this matter isn't related to you. I came looking for you not to ask for your help, but other than you, I can't tell anyone else about this. I just want to find someone to talk to." Teresa's sad look made one's heart ache, but Sue couldn't do anything in the end and could only say a few words of comfort. Teresa wasn't as weak as she seemed on the surface. After she finished talking to Sue, although her face was still sad, she forced herself to calm down and left. Sue didn't have a reason to keep her, so naturally he could only watch her leave. Looking in the direction Teresa left in, Sue felt emotional in his heart. Although Teresa had been living here alone for 3 years, she still had her family in her heart. But now there was a piece of news in the Lampury Weekly that completely cut off the thoughts in her heart. From this moment on, Teresa could be considered truly alone. It's better to let Vivian and Evita care about her a bit more, Sue silently thought. Teresa had stayed in Sue's home for a while, so she had a good relationship with Vivian. After entering the Academy of Magic, she had a good relationship with Evita. Letting the two of them take care of Teresa would make her feel better. Other than this, Sue couldn't think of any other good methods. In terms of mechanical engineering, Sue was a genius. In terms of magic, he could also be considered a genius. But in terms of the ways of the world, especially in terms of the thoughts of a little girl, Sue had always been very slow and wasn't good at this. Thinking of Teresa's current mood, Sue couldn't help giving another sigh. He shook his head and planned to return to the house. When he was about to turn, he suddenly saw 2 rays of light coming from the distance, quickly approaching from the distance. Not long after, the 2 rays of light came from the Sheenfei farm that was 4 kilometers away to not far from the road outside the manor. Sue also heard the familiar roar of the magic engine in the wind. Seeing the 2 rays of light that were like lightning that cut through the sky, cutting through the night and entering the manor, Sue felt the veins on his forehead pop out and his lips couldn't help twitching. 2 loud breaking sounds came from the front yard of the manor. The 2 rays of light extinguished, and in the magic lamp outside the manor, there was a pure black magic sedan and a fire-red magic sedan. The door of the pure black magic sedan opened and great magician Camilla came out, laughing into the sky. "Ha ha, I'm here first, ha ha." The door of the fire-red magic sedan opened and the one who came out was Elder Lysania. Looking at great magician Camilla, who had a proud smile, Elder Lysania gave a cold snort. "What are you proud of? Don't forget that you started 2 seconds before me. If it's like this, I should be here first and win." Great magician Camilla looked at Elder Lysania with a look of disdain. "Isn't starting faster proof that I'm stronger than you? Who told you to start so slowly? It was an entire 2 seconds. For such a long time, could it be that you were in a daze?" Elder Lysania angrily glared at great magician Camilla. "You're the one in a daze. There was a small problem with my magic sedan, so there was a delay in starting, so I was 2 seconds late. Otherwise I definitely wouldn't have started slower than you." Great magician Camilla waved his hand. "Don't look for objective reasons. If this was a race, you would have already lost if you started slow. Don't tell me you don't know this." Elder Lysania knit her brows and gave a cold snort. She ignored great magician Camilla and turned to Sue on the side. "Chairman Sue, Help me see what's wrong with my magic sedan? Why did it fail 2 times in a row? Sui shook his head with a bitter smile. Great Magician Camilla was already 64 years old and Elder Lysania was at least 400 years old, which was close to 70 human years old. Why did the two of them act like children and bicker over this? It was fine if it was Great Magician Camilla, but Elder Lysania was a noble and elegant elf. She was even a respected elder of the elf race. I don't know if it's because Elder Lysania has a fiery personality to begin with or if participating in the race has changed her personality. Sui muttered in his heart before quickly walking to the side of the fire-red magic sedan with a smile. After checking it, Sui quickly found the problem. This magic sedan's magic lead that connected to the magic engine had loosened a bit, causing the connection between the circuits to be bad. This caused the previous 2 failures. This was a small problem, so Sui easily solved it for Elder Lysania. After successfully activating it several times, Elder Lysania pointed at Great Magician Camilla. "Come, let's have another match." Great Magician Camilla gave a cold snort. "Then let's compete. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Sui quickly stopped Great Magician Camilla, who was about to get into the magic sedan, and said to the two of them with a bitter smile, "It's already this late, and it's so dark outside, how can we compete? This doesn't affect us." Great Magician Camilla waved his hand and prepared to get into the magic sedan again. Sui quickly stopped him again. "It doesn't affect you, but it will affect others. It's this late, it's easy to scare others. Then again, if you go out to compete, who will time you? It's hard to create a fair competition, all right?" Great Magician Camilla and Elder Lysania looked at each other. They thought this was right, so they nodded and gave up the idea of competing again. Sui let out a long sigh of relief. Because he was planning on holding a professional race car, Sui had held a small competition in the Principality of Constantine in the name of New Flyer this spring, specially for racing cars. After hearing about this competition, Great Magician Camilla and Elder Lysania immediately chose to sign up. Because the two of them were very strong, they didn't need to worry about accidents when driving the magic sedan. So they had been driving the magic sedan as fast as they could, so naturally they were more used to it than the other participants. With their powerful magic, their bodies were much stronger than normal people, so they were even more terrifying when it came to racing cars. So after several races, the two of them had taken all the first and second places. In today's race, the two of them had been tied. So the two of them weren't convinced of each other, and wanted to suppress the other, so they even held a grudge against each other like little children. Now that the two of them had put down their dispute, although Sui was very curious about the results of the afternoon's race, he could only restrain himself and didn't dare mention this topic. Looking at Great Magician Camilla, Sui's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly thought of something. "Right, grandfather, the Lampari Kingdom's Magic Association and the Kingdom's Parliament have both sent letters, hoping that you can attend the celebration they've prepared for you. Are you willing to go?" Hearing this question, Great Magician Camilla's face sunk. Chapter 657. "I don't want to be looked at like a monkey, I won't go." Great Magician Camilla threw down these cold words before waving his hand and walking into the room. "How could they dare look at you like a monkey? They just want to bask in your glory!" Sui shouted from behind, but Great Magician Camilla gave a cold snort before walking into the room without looking back. Sui could only give a helpless sigh and shake his head. It seemed like Seveni could only be disappointed. Moreover, it wouldn't be just Seveni who would be disappointed, everyone in the Lampari Kingdom would be very disappointed. At the end of last year, Great Magician Camilla finally broke through the boundary of Great Magician and grasped spatial laws, becoming an Archmagus. Then he went to the Magicians' Union headquarters in the city in the sky and received the approval of the Magicians' Union headquarters, becoming an honored Archmagus recognized by the Magicians' Union headquarters. After this news was spread, not only did it shock the entire Lampari Kingdom, It also shocked the surrounding countries. It had to be known, there hadn't been a great magus in the signs for several hundred years. So for the entire continent, arch-magi were the most powerful magicians, there was no other. Although there were differences in strength between arch-magi, like great magician Camilla. No, he should be called Teacher Carmilla now, who was called an arch-magus. He wasn't considered a peak magician. But no matter what, he was still an arch-magus. He was someone who grasped spatial laws, understood the true meaning of magic, and even stepped into the realm of spiritual gods. Although it seemed like there was only a fine line between an arch-magus and a great magician, this fine line was a gap that the tens of thousands of magicians in the signs couldn't cross in their entire lives. Right now, there were over 100,000 magicians in the signs, but there were only 27 arch-magi recognized by the Magicians' Union headquarters, so it could be seen how rare arch-magi were. But now, great magician Camilla had become the 28th arch-magus. This matter was of great significance to the signs, because any archmage was one of the top figures on the continent. Even in the Canla Empire and the Malar Empire, they were definitely at the top. For the Lampari Kingdom, this was even more significant. The Lampari Kingdom had been established for more than 400 years, but only one magister had ever appeared. That was the magister who had accompanied the first emperor during the founding of the kingdom. Now that 400 years had passed, a second magus had finally appeared in the Lampari Kingdom. It was easy to imagine how shocked the Lampari Kingdom would be. After receiving the news of great magician Camilla becoming an arch-magus, the Lampari Kingdom didn't hesitate to give him a series of honors. They also invited him to a grand ceremony that the Lampari Kingdom was holding, planning to announce to everyone that great magician Camilla had become an arch-magus. However, what people didn't expect was that instructor Carmilla refused to participate in this ceremony and didn't give any reason. It was hard enough for an arch-magus to appear, but she didn't give them any face at all. The Lampari Kingdom was naturally very unsettled by this. Seveni had sent several letters to Sui because of this, asking why instructor Carmilla wasn't willing to participate in this ceremony. After Sui asked instructor Carmilla, the answer he received made him not know whether to laugh or cry. So instructor Carmilla simply hated this kind of ceremony. This kind of ceremony that was too formal and symbolic made her feel disgusted, so she refused to participate. Sui could accept this reason, but the Lampari Kingdom's side couldn't accept it no matter what. So in this half a year, every once in a while, the Lampari Kingdom would send an invitation to instructor Carmilla, hoping that she could participate in the ceremony. However, they were all rejected by instructor Carmilla each time. This time, instructor Carmilla's reaction was even colder. Sui couldn't help thinking about explaining this matter in his letter to Seveni, letting the Lampari Kingdom's side not waste time doing this kind of undesirable thing. If they really attracted the disgust of instructor Carmilla, it would be very bad for the Lampari Kingdom. Chairman Su, this is actually a very easy matter to understand. A powerful magician cares about their own strength the most, so of course they wouldn't care about what normal people think. Elder Lysania, who had appeared beside Sui, spoke. Sui turned to look at her and his heart skipped a beat. Elder Lysania, your elven race should have arch-magi, right? Of course. Elder Lysania nodded. Before the race wars, when our elven race was at its peak, arch-magi weren't considered anything, and we even had 5 or more grand magi. As for now, Elder Lysania shook her head as a trace of sadness appeared in her eyes. Although I'm certain that there are arch-magi, I don't know any information about them. Then do you think that the kingdom of Ruor's Azhara tribe might have arch-magi? Sui asked. I'm not clear on this, but haven't you already contacted the Azhara tribe? Could it be that you don't even know this bit of information? Elder Lysania asked back. Sui shook his head with a bitter smile. You should know that the elven race is on guard against us humans. Although we've obtained the initial approval of the Azhara tribe through our connection with the Nightsong tribe and your Moon Shadow tribe, we still don't even know where the Azhara tribe is. These guys, the times are different now. There's no meaning in hiding like before. Elder Lysania lightly snorted and paused before saying to Sui, "How about this, after a while, I'll personally make a trip to the Kingdom of Rur with you. With me accompanying you, I believe that the Azhara tribe will accept you more easily." Sui was immediately overjoyed. "That's great. This matter shouldn't be delayed. I'll pick a time next month and we'll set off together. What do you think?" "Next month?" Elder Lysania frowned and tilted her head in thought. "There are only 2 matches next month, so we'll go in between them." Sui couldn't help wiping the cold sweat off his forehead. He never would have thought that Elder Lysania, who seemed very noble, elegant, mysterious, and arrogant to others, would actually be this obsessed with racing. Elder Lysania looked at Suyi's strange expression, and her expression changed, like she thought of something. She closed her eyes and a trace of magic was released from her body. After a while, Elder Lysania shouted into the darkness of the manor to the right, "Agnes, come out." Sui looked in that direction in a daze and saw a flash of light in the darkness as Agnes' figure appeared. "Agnes, you are already Chairman Su's partner. This is your home, what are you hiding for?" Elder Lysania asked with a frown. Sui was also a bit confused. "That's right, Agnes, what are you hiding for?" Agnes tilted her head and avoided Elder Lysania's gaze with an unnatural expression. After hesitating a bit, she said in a soft voice, "Elder Lysania, I'm afraid of you." Sui couldn't help laughing. What was Agnes afraid of Elder Lysania for? But thinking about it, he felt that it was understandable. Elder Lysania and Elder Elucia had different personalities. They were much stricter. Even if she was not an elder of the Nightsong tribe, to Agnes, she was still a respected elder. She would definitely be respectful when seeing her. But to say she was afraid, that was a bit too much. "Afraid of me?" Elder Lysania knit her brows. She looked at Agnes and a look of understanding appeared on her face. "I understand. No wonder you're afraid of me. Agnes, you've already been Chairman Su's partner for so long, why are you still pure? Why haven't you merged with Chairman Su yet?" "Ha!" Sui looked at Elder Lysania with wide eyes. What kind of question was this? Although he hadn't merged with Agnes yet, this wasn't a question that Elder Lysania should be asking, right? Elder Lysania turned her head and looked at Sui, asking, "Chairman Su, it was you who chose Agnes back then, so I brought the girls of our tribe back. But now that half a year has passed, you haven't touched Agnes at all. Why is that? Is it because you're not satisfied with Agnes? Or are you saying that you're just doing this for Elucia and me?" No, it's not related to him, it's me." Agnes waved her hands. "It's you? What about you?" Elder Lysania asked in a deep voice. Agnes looked at Sui and a rare blush appeared on her pure face. Sir Chairman said that he wouldn't force me and would patiently wait for me to be ready before merging with me. But you've never been ready?" Elder Lysania asked with a cold snort. Agnes gave a soft unsound and lowered her head. Elder Lysania took a deep look at Agnes before looking at the frowning Sui on the side. After pausing for a bit, she softened her tone and said to Agnes, "Agnes, mating is the instinct of any species, there is nothing to prepare for. Didn't you say that you liked being with Chairman Su? Then mating with him is a very natural thing, there is nothing to be shy about. Be brave and take this step, this is a path you will inevitably experience." Sui looked at Elder Lysania with a strange expression. Although her words were reasonable, saying mating again and again made him feel strange and embarrassed. Instead, Agnes gave a strong nod and turned to look at Sui. Although her face was still a bit red, her expression was firm. Elder Lysania, I will definitely talk to Sir Chairman." Suyi's face twitched. Using the magic in his body, He used a short-distance teleportation spell to appear beside Agnes and covered her mouth. This, Elder Lysania, this is a matter between us husband and wife. You shouldn't care too much, right? Seeing Sue-Yi look at her, Elder Lysania seemed to have misunderstood. She nodded and said, "You're right. But Chairman Sue, if you don't understand how to mate with elves, then I can help you. Your taste is a bit special. If you really like it, I can personally give you a demonstration." Sue-Yi's face twitched and he suppressed the urge to spit out blood with great difficulty. He seriously said word for word, "No, thank you for your good intentions. This matter, I will properly study it with Agnes." Properly. Study it. Chapter 658. Newman left. The discussion with the new flyer didn't go well, so he had a lot on his mind when he left. It was clear that he wasn't satisfied with the result. Although the new flyer promised to increase their investment in the Kingdom of Roar and do their best to help the Kingdom of Roar create a magic machine industrial system, specifically transferring more magic machine-related technology to the Kingdom of Roar, as for the military magic machines that King Tarek cared about the most, Sue-Yi never gave a clear answer. Although Sue-Yi promised that when the Kingdom of Roar's magic machine industrial system was perfected, he would consider transferring some military magic machine-related technology to the Kingdom of Roar. When this perfected would happen, it was a very vague concept. Not to mention that according to Sue-Yi's description, it would take at least 3 years to create a magic machine industrial system comparable to the Lampari Kingdom. And to obtain Sue-Yi's approval, it would take at least 5 years. The Kingdom of Roar couldn't wait 5 years. So Newman understood that even if King Tarek wasn't willing, he could only accept Sue-Yi's only solution, which was to directly purchase military magic machines from the new flyer to maintain the balance between the Kingdom of Roar's military and the Lampari Kingdom's military strength. Times were different. The military style of relying on armors and swords to fight had already been pushed to the side by the might of the military magic machines produced by the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce. If the Kingdom of Roar couldn't catch up, it wouldn't take long before they were left far behind by the Lampari Kingdom. When the difference in strength between the two sides was large enough, the so-called allies wouldn't have any meaning. Ambassador Hakkinen also left, and he left right after Newman. Compared to Newman, Ambassador Hakkinen was very satisfied when he left. Although he didn't receive a clear answer from Sue-Yi like Newman regarding the military magic machines, the Kanla Empire didn't care that much about this matter, so Ambassador Hakkinen naturally didn't care that much. Compared to this, he cared more about the large amount of household magic machines Sue-Yi promised him. According to the contract he had signed with Sue-Yi, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce would sell him over 30,000 household magic machines at 90% of the normal price, which was a high amount of 740,000 gold coins. Ambassador Hakkinen had estimated that if he could bring these 30,000 household magic machines back to the Kandra Empire and sell them, with how much the nobles and merchants wanted these new household magic machines, he would be able to earn a shocking profit of over 200,000 gold coins from them. If he was a bit more ruthless, the profit would be even higher. So when he left New Flyer, Ambassador Hakkinen had a smile that was like a flower blooming on his face, looking very bright. Although he was the ambassador of the Kanla Empire in the Kingdom of Roar and had a high status, because he didn't have any real power, he didn't earn that much. In a single year, it was already hard for him to earn 40 to 50,000 gold coins. But now that he had come to New Flyer, he could earn a large profit of 200,000 gold coins. Moreover, he didn't need to do anything because Sue-Yi had promised that he would personally send a motorcade to deliver the goods to Karaka City. They could even be sent directly to the Kanla Empire. The only condition was that Ambassador Hakkinen would be responsible for the transportation costs and the procedures for the motorcade entering the Kanla Empire. It was natural to bear the transportation costs, and letting a trivial motorcade enter the Candla Empire was a very simple matter for Ambassador Hakkinen, so he easily agreed to this condition. After everything was settled, Ambassador Hakkinen just needed to return to Caracas City and wait. When the new Flyers motorcade arrived and they returned to the Candla Empire with Ambassador Hakkinen, he could just sit at home and count his gold coins. Ambassador Hakkinen was filled with joy, but Sui wasn't any less happy than him. After discussing with Newman, who represented the Kingdom of Ruhr, even if they didn't get a clear result on the military magic machines, they could deepen their cooperation with the Kingdom of Ruhr on the civilian magic machines. According to the favorable conditions King Tarek gave, New Flyer would receive great benefits whether it was investing in factories or selling magic machines in the Kingdom of Ruhr. For example, the Kingdom of Ruhr would pass a resolution to classify magic machines as a commodity and adopt a new tax system. They wouldn't be taxed like normal goods. According to this new standard, when New Flyer sold magic machines in the Kingdom of Ruhr in the future, not only would they pay 5% less in taxes, they would also reduce taxes by 3%. Don't look down on the numbers of 5% and 3%. It had to be known, just in the first half of this year, New Flyer had earned over 3 million gold coins from selling magic machines in the Kingdom of Ruhr. 5% plus 3% saved New Flyer close to 300,000 gold coins, which definitely couldn't be underestimated. As for Ambassador Hakkinen, New Flyer didn't receive any direct benefits from cooperating with Ambassador Hakkinen. Rather, because New Flyer needed to stop a motorcade from transporting goods to the Candla Empire, even if Ambassador Hakkinen was responsible for the transportation costs, New Flyer had to invest a large amount of manpower and resources. In the end, not only would they not earn any money, they might even suffer a loss. However, the main meaning of cooperating with Ambassador Hakkinen was to help New Flyer open up the large market in the Candla Empire. Compared to the Lampari Kingdom, the Candla Empire was several times bigger and had several times more people. There was no doubt that the market was several times bigger. If New Flyer's magic machines could enter the Candla Empire and gain a foothold in the Candla Empire, it would without a doubt mean that New Flyer's future would be bright. It was just a small loss, so naturally it wasn't considered much. ##### The blazing sun had already climbed to the top of their heads, and its scorching hot gaze shone down from above, turning everyone's shadows into lumps beneath their feet. From time to time there would be a few drops of sweat falling from above, dripping onto the ground. They would create a small patch on the hot road before instantly evaporating. Sui forcefully wiped the sweat from his forehead. His voice was a bit hoarse as he asked Akali squatting on the ground, "How is it? Is there a reaction?" Akali looked up. Her face was covered in sweat and she had a confused look on her face. "Strange. It should be fine, so why isn't there a reaction?" Sui looked down at the half-meter square wooden platform in front of her and found that there was no reaction from the magic array on the platform. He couldn't help knitting his brows. Could it be? It failed? Impossible. Akali raised her voice and firmly shook her head. "Our team has already done this experiment several hundred times, and we've succeeded every time. It's impossible for it to fail." Sui nodded. I believe in your abilities. But you don't need to worry, it doesn't matter if it fails once. I've said it before, you can fail during the experiment phase, but when it comes to the practical application phase, you can't fail as you wish. I've already said it won't fail. Akali forcefully stomped her foot and suddenly stood up. She looked at the high platform on the side of the road in the distance, and suddenly the magic in her body surged. She directly flew up and moved towards the high platform. Sui couldn't help rolling his eyes. This Akali, she really couldn't change her impatient personality. Turning his head to look at the several young mages wearing the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce's uniform, Sui smiled and asked, "You've already done this experiment several hundred times?" The several researchers looked at each other and a slightly older researcher respectfully replied, "Yes, Sir Chairman. Team leader Akali has been researching this magic transmission network since last year. Since the beginning of the magic transmission long-distance experiment, we've done several hundred experiments. Later, after a breakthrough in the magic transmission distance experiment, we've also done several hundred experiments on the magic transmission network. If we really want to count, we've done at least 1,000 experiments on this topic." "Oh? So Akali just said too little?" Sui turned his head to look at the high platform in the distance, and found that Akali had already landed on the high platform. She seemed to be bending over to inspect something. "Yes, since you've already done so many experiments, I believe that you're already very familiar with this topic. There won't be any problems." "Yes." Hearing Suyi's praise, the several young researchers all puffed out their chests and said with pride, "We've spent so much effort on this, there's no way we'll fail. Yes. With team leader Akali leading, we'll definitely succeed." Sui laughed and thought to himself, after a few years, not only did Akali become a senior researcher of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, she also established enough authority in the hearts of the other researchers. At the very least, in the hearts of the research team members she led, her image must be very high. If we let them know what Akali looked like in the past, wouldn't it affect the glorious image of Akali in their hearts? Sui mischievously thought. Looking back at the wooden platform, Sui couldn't help feeling a bit emotional. Sui had only mentioned the idea of creating a magic transmission network by imitating the power grid on Earth to Akali, but he didn't expect that Akali would wholeheartedly devote herself to it. Currently, this wooden platform represented one of the terminals of the magic transmission network. Although it was still very immature and far from being mature, it meant that this idea was very likely to become a reality. Chapter 659. Akali moved very quickly and flew back like a gust of wind. As soon as she landed, she waved her hand in high spirits. "All right, the problem is solved." Sui stopped her from placing her hand on the wooden platform and asked, "What was the problem, did you find out?" Akali was a bit surprised, as if she was surprised that someone would ask her this kind of question. She then reacted and answered, "Oh, there was a small mistake in the same frequency setting of the magic array. I didn't consider that today's weather would be so hot that the magic array material was slightly warped from the heat, causing a small error in the magic array. I just checked it and fixed it, so it's fine now." It's good that you know where the problem is." Sui nodded. "But Akali, I heard the other team members say that you've done this experiment over 1,000 times, so there should have been a similar problem before. Why didn't you find a way to solve it?" Akali looked at Sui with a bit of hesitation. Sui frowned. "What? Is there something you can't say in front of me?" "Chairman, you're the one who told me to say this." Akali suddenly laughed. Sui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Just say it. Is there someone stopping you from saying it? I think that in this company, there isn't anyone who can stop you, right?" "That might not be the case, for example, Evita," Akali said with a bitter face. "Evita?" Sui was very confused. "What did Evita do to you? If there really was a problem, wouldn't she tell me directly?" "I just can't tell you." Akali shrugged and looked at Sui. She sighed and said, "All right, since I've already said it, I'll tell you. Chairman, you guessed right, I know about this problem, but because of Evita's orders, I didn't think of a way to solve it." Sui asked in puzzlement, "Why?" "Because Evita said that we have to reduce the cost of research as much as possible." Akali replied helplessly. "Evita said that our Academy of Magic spent too much on research last year, so from this year onwards, she asked every research team and every researcher to try to save as much money as possible. Money that shouldn't be spent can't be spent recklessly. I've actually discovered the problem with the materials a long time ago, but when I thought about how I had to change the materials for each experiment, and how I had to conduct research on the adaptability of the materials, it would definitely cost a lot of money, so I temporarily gave up on it. Nonsense! Sue suddenly shouted, startling Akali and the other researchers. There's nothing wrong with saving research costs, but lowering the research standards because of this is simply putting the cart before the horse. Akali, you're an experienced researcher. Don't you know that if a research isn't done perfectly in the experimental stage, a small mistake in the practical process could lead to a huge loss? Akali rarely saw Sue this angry, so she was a bit stunned. What you or me, I'm telling you, as long as it can raise the level of research and improve the results, no matter how much money is spent, it's worth it. Could it be that you've forgotten about our company's last batch of magic air conditioners? Because of a small mistake in the research process, we were forced to recall over 20,000 magic air conditioners that had already been sold, right? Akali stuck out her tongue. Of course I remember. Steele said that being forced to recall them caused our company to lose over 100,000 gold coins, right? It's not just 100,000 gold coins, Sue said in a deep voice. The more important thing is that this matter has seriously damaged our company's almost perfect reputation. This is 100 times more serious than 100,000 gold coins loss. So I definitely won't allow another mistake in the research process. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. Akali kept nodding, but Sir Chairman, Evita said that she wants to save on research costs, so she's very strict with the research funds given to each research group. Look. Sue gave a snort. I've already noticed this problem. Tell her that in order to solve this problem, it doesn't matter how much research funds are added. After pausing, he asked, 100,000 gold coins, it should be enough, right? Akali immediately cheered. It's enough. After cheering, Akali excitedly hugged Sue as she said with a laugh, Sir Chairman, I knew that you were the most generous. You definitely wouldn't be as stingy as that Evita, being so stingy with a single gold coin. Seeing Akali's excited expression and the excited expressions of the surrounding researchers, Sue's heart skipped a beat. He seemed to have realized something as he pointed at Akali and said, All right, Akali, you did this on purpose. You wanted to use this chance to ask for more research funds from me, right? Akali giggled as she grabbed Sue's arm and shook it. As expected, I can't hide from the wise Sir Chairman. But Sir Chairman, you definitely won't mind, right? Sue gave a cold snort. You're the only one who thinks too much. If you want more research funds, just say it. When have I ever been stingy? But I'm warning you, I can give you 100,000 gold coins, but it has to be used to solve this material problem. If I find out that you're spending it, humph. I won't. Sir Chairman, how could I spend it randomly? It's not like you've only known me for a few days, Akali said with a smile. Sue looked up at the sky and sighed. It's because it's not the first day that I've known you that I fell for your trick. Seeing that Akali still wanted to say something, Sue raised his hand and interrupted her. All right, let's end this here. Let's hurry up and get to the point. If this experiment doesn't succeed, then no matter how much research funds I give you, it will all be for naught. I already said that it won't fail. Akali confidently walked in front of the wooden platform and pressed a button on the platform. The magic array on the platform flashed with a faint green light. Sue, Akali, and the other researchers all turned their heads and looked in the direction of the platform. As magicians, they could clearly feel the wind elemental magic fluctuations coming from the platform in the distance. They instantly came to the wooden platform and entered the magic array on it. The magic array on the wooden platform suddenly lit up. Immediately afterward, everyone sensed the same elemental fluctuations as the wind elemental fluctuations from before. The elemental fluctuations then spread from the wooden platform to the several household magic machines placed beside the platform through thin lines. With a weak buzzing sound, the magic fan suddenly began to turn. The magic air conditioner also opened its vent and blew out a cool breeze. The magic stove automatically lit up. The various household magic machines that had been silent suddenly began to move at the same time. Sui looked over each household magic machine and found that the blades of the magic fan were turning faster, the flames of the magic stove were higher than normal, and the cool breeze coming out of the magic air conditioner was weaker than normal. In short, the operation of each household magic machine was a bit different from normal. This was to be expected. In a normal situation, these household magic machines were powered by their own magic crystals. But this time they were all using this wooden platform, which was the magic transmission terminal, as the power source, so there would be some differences. Not to mention that this magic came from the center of the magic transmission network, the magic supply station that was 2 kilometers away. With such a long distance, it was normal for there to be some differences. In order to solve this problem, in addition to conducting a more detailed research on the mana transmission network, it was more important to establish a unified power supply standard like the household appliances on Earth. This way, the household magic machines could be more smoothly connected to the mana transmission network. The final goal was to be like on Earth. Each family only needed to install a magic transmission terminal like this wooden platform, and they didn't need to go out to buy magic crystals to use the household magic machines at home. Not only could this be used at home, it would save him the time and energy to buy magic crystals, it would also save him some money. The most important thing was that it could allow families that used household magic machines to connect to the magic transmission network. And this magic transmission network was naturally controlled by New Flyer, so the control it could provide was very terrifying. The people of Signs didn't have a strong concept of a country because, other than the problem of education, it was also because to most normal citizens, a country was just a name. The only difference was how much taxes were collected. Once this magic transmission network was built, everyone would be included in the network and it would be hard for people to leave. At the same time, it would clearly separate the people in the network from the people outside the network. An example in front of them was the automatic water supply system that New Flyer was promoting. In Suyi's territory, the automatic water supply system had already been set up. Almost every family and every building in the territory was connected to the automatic water supply system. Now that Suyi's territory was like Earth, they could use the convenience of the automatic water supply system at any time. Just because of this convenience, there were many people that didn't belong to Suyi's territory that came from other places and settled down in Suyi's territory. It hadn't even been a year since Suyi started promoting the automatic water supply system, but the population of his territory had already increased from 200,000 to 300,000. Moreover, according to the current trend, after this year, Suyi's territory might have over half the population of the Principality of Constantine, becoming the absolute core of the Principality of Constantine. Chapter 660. There were 10 newly developed large transport magic cars that New Flyer had developed that had a capacity of 20 tons driving on the falling rain road. The special tires with a diameter of 1 meter and a width of 30 centimeters rolled across the road, creating rumbling sounds that attracted the attention of all the other cars and people on the road. Seeing the half-wing symbol of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce on this majestic motorcade, everyone revealed knowing smiles. It seemed like New Flyer was transporting goods to Banta City again. Since Her Majesty 70 took the throne, New Flyer and the Lampari Kingdom had re-established contact, so this scene was quite common. Especially in New Flyer's home, Banta City, there would be motorcades from New Flyer every few days. Other than the various household magic machines, there were also other kinds of goods. For example, in this motorcade, there was a batch of new half-automatic lathes from New Flyer. If they were assembled, they could form a new magic air conditioner production line. This was one of the projects that New Flyer and Banta City cooperated on. But it was different from the previous projects. This new half-automatic magic air conditioner production line was completely owned by Banta City. This meant that New Flyer wouldn't receive a single bit of profit from the magic air conditioners produced on this production line. Or to put it more directly, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had just sold the magic air conditioner production line made from the new half-automatic lathes to their partner in Banta City. Compared to the other joint ventures between New Flyer and the Lampari Kingdom, this was the first production line that was completely owned by the Lampari Kingdom, so it was very important to the Lampari Kingdom. Thus, when the convoy arrived near the Falling Rain Valley, they saw a group of people waiting by the side of the road. There was even a small stage built by the side, with fresh flowers, red cloth and other festive items placed on it. It was obvious that they were preparing for a welcoming ceremony. The motorcade stopped at the entrance of the Falling Rain Valley, and Banta City's City Lord Count will led a group of Banta City officials to welcome them. The first large transport magic car stopped, and when the door opened, Sue was the first to jump out. This new project wasn't just important to the Lampari Kingdom, it was also very important to New Flyer. It meant that the cooperation between New Flyer and the Lampari Kingdom had reached a deeper level, so naturally Sue as the chairman had to represent New Flyer. He was planning on driving his magic sedan 2 days ahead of time, but because something had happened on the Black Rice Wasteland, he had arrived in Black Rice City 2 days ago. When the motorcade passed by Black Rice City, Sue simply stayed in the large transport magic car and followed them. When Sue landed, Count Will opened his arms with a wide smile, enthusiastically giving Sue a big hug. "Chairman Sue, long time no see, you really are more spirited." Sue let go and looked over Count Will before saying with a faint smile, "Lord City Lord, after not seeing you for a while, you seem much more haggard. Could it be that there have been too many things in Banta City and you've been too tired?" Count Will gave a sigh before shaking his head. "Banta City is in the most crucial period of development, so of course I have to do my best as the City Lord. Not to mention that Her Majesty has given this heavy responsibility to me, how could I dare disappoint her?" Sue revealed a smile and patted his shoulder without any scruples as he said, "Relax, Banta City's development is very smooth right now. It's already several times stronger than before Her Majesty took the throne, so of course this is the work of the Lord City Lord." Count Will nodded with a smile. "This isn't bad. If nothing unexpected happens, Banta City's income this year will be 3 times that of last year, it might even surpass the highest level of the past few years. Of course, this is the result of Chairman Sue and the New Flyer supporting it. Speaking of this, I should properly thank Chairman Sue." Sue waved his hand. "I don't need it. In the end, I am just a merchant, this cooperation is just to earn money." Count Will laughed as he looked at Sue with a gaze of deep meaning. Actually, there were many times when he felt that he couldn't understand Sue. If Sue really was like he said, a normal merchant who did everything to earn money, it would be easy to understand. But in Count Will's eyes, if he looked at it purely from the perspective of the New Flyer, looking at it from the perspective of earning money, many of Sue's choices and actions were very strange. For example, Sue agreed to give Banta City a new semi-automatic magic air conditioner production line, giving it all to Banta City to take care of. This was equal to giving Banta City the ability to develop magic air conditioners themselves. It was different from the other companies that developed the technology they obtained from the New Flyer. In this cooperation, not only would the New Flyer provide the technology, they would also provide the complete machinery, as well as enough manpower. In the end, they were willing to let go and not interfere like the previous joint venture factories, as well as taking a share of the profits. This production line represented the Lampari Kingdom's first firm step in becoming independent in the magic machine industry. If Count Will had to say it, this was simply selflessly helping Banta City. Because with the new Flyer's strong and leading position in the magic machine industry, even if they didn't do this, no one could oppose them. But Sui really did it. Every time he thought about this problem, Count Will could only give himself a reasonable answer. It was that Sui wasn't just after money, rather he was after something higher. As for what this higher goal was, when he returned to Anvilmar City to report, Count Will had seen Her Majesty. He had also talked to the previous Banta City Lord Count Samo, who had been in contact with Sui the most. The two of them said that Sui cared more about developing the magic machine industry, and earning money was secondary. Count Will didn't believe this answer. But other than this explanation, he couldn't think of a better one. According to the plan from before, when the motorcade arrived, Count Will represented Banta City to invite Sui, who represented the new Flyer, to participate in a grand welcoming ceremony. When the ceremony was over, Count Will had people lead the motorcade to the Falling Rain Valley. After preparing to rest, they would assemble the new production line in the afternoon. He and the other officials of Banta City's City Lord invited Sui back to Banta City for lunch. The two sat in the same magic sedan and quickly drove down the Falling Rain Road. With the speed of the magic sedan that Sui gave Count Will 3 months ago, it wouldn't even take an hour to reach Banta City. In the car, after the two chatted for a bit, Count Will paused. He lowered his voice and asked Sui, "Chairman Su, since you just came from the Black Rice Wasteland, you should know about the matters of the Black Rice Wasteland, right?" Sui nodded. "How are things?" Count Will asked. Sui saw the concerned look on Count Will's face, and after thinking about it, he replied, "There shouldn't be any problems at all. I've already sent people to pacify the Beastmen tribes that were attacked and gave them a place to settle down in the name of our new Flyer. Right now the Beastmen are still calm and haven't caused any trouble. But..." Sui's expression suddenly became serious as he asked in a deep voice, "Lord City Lord, I didn't see Commander Lantis in Black Rice City this time, so I couldn't ask him face to face. Why did the Sack Kingdom invade the Black Rice Wasteland so easily? Isn't the Western Army guarding the northern border of the Black Rice Wasteland? Moreover, our company has built fortifications. If the Western Army can't stop the Sack Kingdom's attack like this, then when the Sack Kingdom invades the Lampura Kingdom, they won't be able to stop them." The sudden incident that happened on the Black Rice Wasteland was that the 5 Beastmen tribes near the northern border of the Black Rice Wasteland were invaded by the Sack Kingdom. In the end, these 5 Beastmen tribes were completely massacred by the Sack Kingdom's army, creating a large shock on the Black Rice Wasteland. All the Beastmen on the Black Rice Wasteland were filled with fear. After receiving this shocking news, Sui immediately rushed to the Black Rice Wasteland and properly took care of this matter. However, the effects of this matter were very serious, so of course Sui would be angry. This. Count Will gave a soft cough with an awkward look. Commander Lantis might have never thought. The Sack Kingdom's attack was very sudden, and it was only a small group of elites that charged in, so it was very hard to guard against. Is that so? Sui gave a cold laugh, but he didn't keep asking. Actually, he was very clear in his heart that the Western Army had this loophole and the Sack Kingdom had this chance because the Lampura Kingdom never treated the Black Rice Wasteland as their territory, rather it was a buffer zone between the Sack Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom. After all, most of the people on the Black Rice Wasteland were Beastmen, so no matter what losses the Beastmen suffered, it wasn't related to the Lampari Kingdom. But Sui didn't think like this. In the current new Flyer, there were over 70,000 workers and over 10,000 of them were Beastmen. They were a force that couldn't be ignored in the new Flyer. The mood of the Beastmen was something that Sui had to consider. Moreover, the new flyer's Black Rice City on the Black Rice Wasteland was a very important industrial base for the new flyer. After several years of development, Black Rice City had become the headquarters of the new flyer and several other companies, so it was very important. Black Rice City was located on the Black Rice Wasteland, so if the situation on the Black Rice Wasteland wasn't stable, it would greatly affect the stable development of Black Rice City. Chapter 661. But compared to the anger and dissatisfaction of the Western Army, what Sui cared more about was the reason for the Sac Kingdom's actions this time. Slaughtering 5 Beastmen tribes had a large effect on the Beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland, but for the Sac Kingdom, Sui couldn't see any meaning in this. It was impossible for the Sac Kingdom to have nothing to do, so they would risk fighting the Western Army and forcefully breaking through the defenses, entering the Black Rice Wasteland to slaughter 5 Beastmen tribes that didn't affect the Sac Kingdom at all. However, Sui couldn't understand the meaning of the Sac Kingdom's actions this time. If he analyzed it purely based on the results, the one who suffered the greatest loss other than the Beastmen tribes was the new flyer. Because of this matter, the 10,000 Beastmen workers employed by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had become very unstable. It had seriously affected their work efficiency, causing the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's production to drop over the past few days. But Sui didn't think that the new flyer was worthy of the Sac Kingdom's attention, actually taking such a large risk to attack the new flyer. So there was another reasonable explanation, which was that the Sac Kingdom wanted to use this to evaluate the Western Army's defenses on the Black Rice Wasteland. Perhaps the Sac Kingdom would invade from the Black Rice Wasteland before attacking the Lampari Kingdom from the west. But if the Sac Kingdom was thinking like this, Sui felt that it was too much of a fantasy. Since 70 took the throne, the Lampari Kingdom and the new flyer had a close cooperation. In less than 2 years, the Lampari Kingdom and the new flyer had completely changed. According to the statistics, just last year, the Lampari Kingdom's grain output had reached 6,800,000 tons, surpassing the previous record of 5,900,000 tons. It even became the highest grain output among the surrounding countries. The current grain output of the Lampari Kingdom could not only satisfy the daily needs of everyone in the kingdom, they could even store large amounts of grain and export large amounts of grain. Just in terms of grain exports last year, the Lampari Kingdom had earned over 600,000 gold coins. But compared to the various magic machines, the grain exports weren't enough. According to the statistics, last year, the various magic machine factories that the Lampari Kingdom and the new flyer had produced over 7 million household magic machines. Other than the 2,600,000 that were digested in the kingdom, the remaining close to 5 million household magic machines were exported to other countries other than the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Drake Duchy, and the Mirando Duchy. This brought the Lampari Kingdom a terrifying profit of over 6 million gold coins. From these two sources of income, the Lampuri Kingdom's treasury received a shocking tax income of over 2 million gold coins. Other than that, the kingdom's tax revenue was also over 3 million gold coins. So last year, in the first year that 70 took the throne, the finances of the two kingdoms had increased by a terrifying amount. The total tax revenue was over 6 million gold coins. This kind of shocking revenue was a first for the Lampari Kingdom in the several hundred years it had been established. As the saying goes, money makes things easier. The Lampari Kingdom's finances were always stretched, so they couldn't invest that much money in the most important military. So the Lampari Kingdom was suppressed by the Sac Kingdom and couldn't resist at all. But now that the Lampari Kingdom's finances had greatly improved, the Lampari Kingdom had invested a large amount of money into the military. Last year, the military budget went from a pitiful 300,000 gold coins to 1,300,000 gold coins, an increase of over 1 million gold coins. The result of this large investment was that the main armies of the Lampari Kingdom's royal family had all been replaced with new equipment, as well as being equipped with large amounts of military magic machines bought from the new flyer. In the Northern Army, this was even more obvious. The fully armed Northern Army had fought the Sac Kingdom's Hungry Wolf Regiment several times on the northern border of the two countries, winning each time. Now that the Northern Army was guarding the Muerto Mountains, the Sac Kingdom's army didn't dare take a single step forward, not to mention invading the Lampari Kingdom's territory like before. It was because the military strength of both sides had reversed that Su-Yi was confused by the Sac Kingdom's actions against the Beastmen on the Black Rice Wasteland. It was already good that the Sac Kingdom could defend their territory, but they wanted to invade the Lampari Kingdom like before? How brainless were they? Su-Yi was immersed in thinking about the Sac Kingdom's actions, and Count Revel was also a bit embarrassed by Su-Yi's question, so the car fell silent. But not long after, the magic sedan suddenly shook and Su-Yi was awakened from his thoughts. Feeling the pain from his butt from falling back into the seat, as well as the bumps from the car, Su-Yi looked back with knit brows. He found that there were many large and small potholes on the Falling Rain Road. No wonder it was so hard to drive. Lord City Lord, when I came last time, the Falling Rain Road was still very good. Why did it become like this in just a few months? Su-Yi couldn't help asking. Count Revel also looked back and his expression became even more awkward. During this time, the Foucault Chamber of Commerce's transport magic cars have been using this road, so the Falling Rain Road has been crushed. The Foucault Chamber of Commerce's transport cars. Su-Yi thought about it before understanding. They're transporting to the Foucault steel mill in the north, right? Chairman Su, this steel mill was built by the Foucault Chamber of Commerce and your new flyer, you shouldn't have forgotten, right? Count Revel said. Of course I remember. Other than our new flyer, this is the first steel mill built by another company. It's a bit similar to the magic air conditioner production line I sent this time. Su-Yi looked at the road again and said with a frown, but it's no good for the transport cars to crush the Falling Rain Road like this. Lord City Lord, have you considered repairing the road? I'm currently researching it, Count Revel said with a nod. Moreover, I'm not just planning on repairing the Falling Rain Road, I'm also planning on widening it to at least 8 lanes. Because the Falling Rain Road is the most important transport road in our Banta City, the road before was too narrow and couldn't satisfy our needs. Su-Yi laughed. There's no other way. When our new flyer built the Falling Rain Road before, we didn't have much money, so we couldn't make it too wide. But for the Lord City Lord to realize this problem now, it really is praiseworthy. This is my duty as the City Lord, Count Revel said with a faint smile. Speaking of building roads, Chairman Su, do you know about Her Majesty's recent decree? Is it related to strengthening the Lampari Kingdom's roads? Su-Yi asked back. Yes. Her Majesty is planning on building 13 new roads in the kingdom next year, which will become the main roads of the kingdom. Other than this, she is also planning on repairing or expanding the other 39 roads, strengthening the kingdom's road network. This plan has already been approved by the kingdom's parliament and I believe it will be officially approved soon. This is a good thing. Su-Yi gave a shrug. Revel gave a shrug. In the end, now that the Lampari Kingdom has money, Her Majesty can do many things. But there is still a very important problem with this plan that hasn't been solved yet. Count Reeves looked at Su-Yi with sparkling eyes. Seeing Count Reeves' eyes, Su-Yi couldn't help smiling. I say, Lord City Lord, it can't be that you were sent by Her Majesty to inquire about my intentions, right? With my relationship with Her Majesty, is there anything that can't be said? A strange smile appeared on Count Reeves' face before he coughed lightly and sternly said, The problem with this plan is that the construction, repair, and expansion of roads requires a large amount of cement, steel bars, and other materials. The steel bars are easy to solve, because the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's steel mill can already provide finished steel. Although the quality isn't high, it's enough to build roads. But cement? No problem. I was just thinking that it was too troublesome to transport cement from the Principality of Constantine, so I was planning to build a few cement processing plants in the Lampari Kingdom, Sui said. Count Reeves stared blankly before being overjoyed. He had indeed followed Her Majesty's orders to inquire about Su Yi's intentions, but he hadn't thought that Su Yi would actually agree. Don't look at me like that. Su Yi shot a glance at Count Reeves before looking in the direction of Anvilmar City. He shook his head and said, Tell Her Majesty for me that my original intention of helping the Lampari Kingdom establish a magic machine industry won't change, so she doesn't need to have too many misgivings. Count Reeves looked deeply at Su Yi with a strange expression. Chairman Su, I don't need to pass these words to Her Majesty. It's best if you tell her yourself. Tell her myself. Su Yi was a bit baffled. That's right. Count Reeves' expression suddenly became serious. He took out a pink envelope from his chest and placed it in Su Yi's hand. Chairman Su, this is a private letter Her Majesty asked me to give to you. Her Majesty wants me to tell you that if you have time, she hopes that you can take a trip to Anvilmar City. Her Majesty wants to drink some tea and chat with you. Seeing Count Reeves finally couldn't help revealing a strange smile, Su Yi was stunned. He lowered his head to look at the letter that still had a trace of fragrance. Although Seveni wasn't that beautiful, her delicate face that made people feel at ease appeared in his mind, making him feel incomparably complicated. Chapter 662. 5 days later, Su Yi appeared on the streets of Anvilmar City. With the rapid development of the Lampari Kingdom, Anvilmar City, the capital of the Lampari Kingdom, was also quickly changing. The most obvious thing was that on the sides of the streets of Anvilmar City, there were many shops selling various household magic machines. Walking through the streets of the city, one could see all kinds of household magic machines being used by people. It was summer now, but the citizens of Anvilmar City didn't have to come out of their hot houses like before and find a cool place to escape the heat. This was because even if they couldn't afford a high-level household magic machine like the magic air conditioner that cost 20 to 30 gold coins, it wasn't a problem to buy a magic fan. Su Yi looked over and saw many people opening their doors on the sides of the street. He could see different styles and colors of magic fans quickly turning. These magic fans weren't all Xinfei brand magic fans. Because Su Yi had released the technology related to the magic fan in the beginning, there were many brands of magic fans that appeared in the Lampari Kingdom. Even if the Xinfei brand magic fan was the best and highest grade magic fan in the hearts of the Lampari Kingdom's citizens, as the quality and performance of the other brands of magic fans came closer to the Xinfei brand magic fan, they had the ability to compete with the Xinfei brand magic fan. According to last month's statistics, since the beginning of summer this year, although New Flyer's magic fan sales in the Lampari Kingdom had increased by 17% compared to last year, which was considered a steady increase, its market share in the Lampari Kingdom had decreased. It had gone from having an absolute lead of 76% to 53% last year. Comparing these two numbers, it meant that the economy of the Lampari Kingdom had greatly increased. There were more and more families that could afford magic fans, but it also meant that the competition of the other brands of magic fans had increased, taking quite a bit of market share from New Flyer. Regarding this situation, the high-level members of New Flyer represented by Kennard were very worried. They felt that New Flyer's market share had decreased, which meant that New Flyer's response wasn't right. They should properly think of a way to take back their market share. Su Yi didn't care about this at all, rather he was a bit happy in his heart. These two numbers didn't just show the speed of economic development in the Lampari Kingdom, it also showed the technological progress of the other companies in making magic fans. Putting aside the magic fan companies that didn't care about cost and even made a loss, Sui had investigated the quality of 17 other brands of magic fans in the Lampari Kingdom. He confirmed that these magic fans had the same basic performance as the Xinfei brand magic fan, but there were many details that couldn't compare to the Xinfei brand magic fan. There were even 6 companies that added their own newly developed technology when making magic fans, making these 6 brands of magic fans that were slightly different from the Xinfei brand magic fans. Although these differences didn't make the magic fans better, there was no doubt that these 6 companies had innovated in terms of technology. And this was what Sui cared about the most. After coming to Anvilmar City this time, Sui didn't immediately go see 70. Rather, he used the New Flyers sales network in Anvilmar City to inform the 6 companies ahead of time, wanting to gather them together for a meeting. The place they agreed on was the most luxurious restaurant in Anvilmar City. After Sui drove his magic car into Anvilmar City, he went straight to the restaurant that had been built last year, but he met a problem that he never expected. There was no parking space. Sui parked his magic sedan a bit away from the entrance of the restaurant. Looking at the square in front of the restaurant that was filled with all kinds of magic sedans, as well as the 3 medium-sized passenger magic cars, he couldn't help revealing a strange expression. In the big cities on Earth, if one wanted to go to a restaurant to eat, they would have to worry about parking spaces, which was natural. But Sui never would have thought that in this world, there would be people who would worry about this problem. It had to be said, the speed at which the magic machine industry developed in the signs had far surpassed Sui's imagination. At least in terms of the acceptance of the magic sedans, the people of this world were very quick. According to the statistics from New Flyer, just in the year and a half since 70 took the throne, New Flyer had sold over 10,000 magic sedans in the Lampari Kingdom, earning a large profit of over 3 million gold coins for New Flyer. Sui had been happy about this number before, but now he was worried about this number. When he was hesitating about whether he should park his magic sedan in an alley to the side, the 3 people at the entrance of the restaurant looked over. When they saw Sui's magic sedan, they immediately revealed smiles and came forward with looks of joy. The one in front was the New Flyers manager in Anvilmar City, Flame. As for the other 2, one of them was wearing a uniform, so he should be a waiter of the restaurant. As for the other one, Sui didn't recognize him. Flame quickly came to the side of the magic sedan. Sui rolled down the window to look at him before looking at the other 2, signaling to Flame with his eyes. Flame gave a slight bow to Sui before pointing at the young waiter and saying, "Sir Chairman, the parking space in front of the restaurant is full. Have him park your car somewhere else." Sui looked at the waiter in surprise. He never thought that this restaurant would have a doorman and a parking service. It really kept up with the times. After getting out of the car and giving the car keys to the attendant, Sui also took out a gold coin to give to him. The waiter looked at the gold coin in his hand in disbelief, before looking at Sui with a hesitant look. "Take it, this is your tip," Sui said with a faint smile. The waiter took the gold coin and gave a deep bow to Sui before getting into the magic sedan. He skillfully started it and turned, heading into an alley beside the restaurant. "When you leave later, you just need to say a word and he will drive the car back for you." Flame looked away from the magic sedan and explained to Sui. Sui nodded before turning to look at the middle-aged man he didn't recognize. "Sir Chairman, please allow me to introduce you. This is the chairman of the Rig Chamber of Commerce, Passaro Rig," Flame said. The middle-aged man immediately revealed a humble smile to Sui and gave a slight bow to show his respect. "Chairman Su, it is my honor to meet you. Rig Chamber of Commerce." Sui seriously looked over the middle-aged man before giving a slight nod. "Chairman Rig, your company's Rig brand Magic Fan is very innovative in the Magic Fan automatic start and stop technology. I very much appreciate it." Chairman Rig laughed, being able to receive Chairman Su's recognition, I am very honored. But compared to the Xinfei brand Magic Fan, our Rig brand Magic Fan still has many shortcomings. We still need to learn more from your new flyer. Progress is a good sign. With this trend, I believe that your Rig brand Magic Fan will catch up to our Xinfei brand Magic Fan one day, Sui said with a smile. Chairman Rig saw the smile on Suyi's face, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. With his many years of experience, he could tell that Suyi's smile and praise came from the bottom of his heart. But this was just too strange. The Rig brand Magic Fan had a breakthrough in technology, so it would definitely steal a part of the Magic Fan market from New Flyer. According to the thoughts of a normal merchant, they would definitely treat the Rig brand Magic Fan as a threat and competitor, so they definitely wouldn't give them a good face. Now that Sui was this happy, could it be that he was really like the rumors? He would fully support the other companies investing in the magic machine industry and would be happy for the other companies to make breakthroughs in the magic machine industry? If he really was this kind of saint, then he might as well give away all the magic machine technology New Flyer had for free. Although this was his first time seeing Sui, Chairman Rig found that he couldn't understand the thoughts of this New Flyer's chairman, who looked too young and wasn't even 30 years old. The three of them walked into the restaurant together. After entering the door, Chairman Rig was silent for a bit before asking Sui, "Chairman Su, I wonder, what do you want to do by specially gathering our 6 companies together?" Chairman Su looked at him. He didn't know if this Chairman Rig was here for the other 5 companies, or if he wanted to obtain some information from him ahead of time. "Everyone is in the magic fan business, so I've gathered you all together to discuss matters related to the magic fan," Sui said with a faint smile. "Chairman Rig, including your Rig Chamber of Commerce, the 6 companies here today all have unique technology related to the magic fan. I'm very interested in the unique technology that you've developed. The reason I'm meeting you today is to talk about these technical matters." Hearing this response, Chairman Rig's heart skipped a beat and his expression became tense. Could it be? New Flyer was interested in the magic fan technology of the 6 companies? With New Flyer's strength that far surpassed the 6 companies and adding in the fact that New Flyer had the full support of the Lampari Kingdom, if New Flyer really wanted to steal their unique technology, they wouldn't be able to resist at all. As if he could see through Chairman Rig's thoughts from his expression, Sui revealed a faint smile before continuing, "No need to worry, Chairman Rig. I'm just interested. I won't do anything to harm you. Rather, I came to find you this time to bring you benefit." Seeing the gentle smile on Suyi's face, Chairman Rig didn't know why, but his heart calmed down a bit. However, before he obtained Suyi's goal, his heart was still filled with anxiety. He hoped that Sui was really like the rumors. Chapter 663. In just half an hour, the doubts and uneasiness in Chairman League's heart had all disappeared. After meeting with Chairman League and the other chairman of the 6 magic fan companies, Sui only had a simple chat with them before entering the main topic. What the 6 chairmen didn't expect was that Sui coming to find them this time really did bring them benefits. Sui told the 6 chairmen that New Flyer was planning to introduce household magic machines to more countries and regions on the continent. Right now, their biggest goal was the Kanla Empire. But Sui said that with the limited production capacity of New Flyer, even if they opened the Kanla Empire market, they wouldn't be able to meet the large demand of the Kanla Empire. So he hoped that they could cooperate with the other household magic machine companies, and everyone could enter the new market together. In terms of magic fans, Sui had chosen these 6 companies. He was prepared to give a portion of the magic fan orders the Frestek Chamber of Commerce received in the future to these 6 companies to complete. Hearing Suyi's proposal, including Chairman Rig, the chairman of the 6 companies didn't dare believe their ears. Even if New Flyer's production capacity couldn't keep up, as long as they received orders, they didn't need to worry at all right? Their production capacity couldn't keep up? Wasn't that simple? They just needed to build more factories and recruit more workers. With New Flyer's strength, this was just a piece of cake. The 6 chairmen didn't understand Su Yi's idea at all. Even after Su Yi took out the contract, they still didn't dare believe it. If Su Yi didn't have any other plans, then he wasn't just a saint, he was simply a savior. Although the Lampari kingdom was developing quickly and the demand for household magic machines had been increasing, the Lampari kingdom was only a small country, so there was a limit to the demand. There were just too many companies that followed the trend of producing magic machines. There were already 17 companies that produced magic machines, filling up the Lampari kingdom's market and making it hard for them to expand. Even if these 6 companies had some unique technology, they were only a bit stronger than the other companies. They could develop quickly in the first few years, but it could be seen that in a few years, when the Lampari kingdom's market was saturated, they would meet a bottleneck. At this time, Su Yi had appeared and said that he would lead them into a wider market. For these 6 companies that couldn't find a better way to develop, if this wasn't a savior, then what was? Chairman Su, why are you doing this? The 6 chairmen were filled with doubts, but Chairman League asked this question. Because your 6 companies will invest in research and development, I have high hopes for you. Su Yi's answer with a smile. I have always believed that technology is the core of development. As long as we invest in technology, we can develop for a long time. Compared to the other companies that produce magic fans, your 6 companies understand this more and have more foresight, so I'm willing to cooperate with you. Or rather, I'm willing to help you. Su Yi's straightforward answer made the 6 chairmen dispel their worries. That's right, with New Flyer's current strength, how could their 6 small companies be worth New Flyer thinking about? Unique technology? What a joke! With New Flyer's large research power, as long as they were willing, they could easily copy their so-called unique technology and even do better. However, in the market this summer, the new Xinfei brand magic fan didn't incorporate the unique technology of their 6 companies, so it was clear that there was enough space for them to survive. Just based on this, they could see Su Yi's sincerity. After thinking this through, the 6 chairmen's hearts finally fell to the ground. They began to seriously consider Su Yi's proposal. As for the final result, naturally both sides had a good discussion. In the end, both sides agreed that when New Flyer received orders from signs other than the Lampari Kingdom and the Kingdom of Ruhr, they would recommend a portion of the magic fan orders to the 6 companies. The condition that the 6 companies had to pay was that they had to invest no less than 100,000 gold coins each year to develop the magic fan technology. At the same time, the magic fans produced by the 6 companies had to follow the standards set by New Flyer, and they couldn't violate it. These 2 conditions were no different from not mentioning anything to the 6 companies. The reason why they could make breakthroughs in the magic fan technology was because they were willing to invest. Although 100,000 gold coins a year was already more than their current investment, it wasn't too high and was completely acceptable. Not to mention that this was something that would help their development, so they had no reason to reject it. As for the last condition, it was even more meaningless. All the magic machines were invented by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce first, and the other companies learned how to make them after receiving the technology from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Even the production lines and production standards for these magic machines were all learned from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. With this premise, the magic machines they produced could only follow the standards set by New Flyer, so how could they violate it? Thus, the chairman of the 6 chambers of commerce happily signed the preliminary agreement. After the discussion, Su Yi declined the invitation of the 6 chairmen to stay for dinner and left the restaurant with Manager Flame. That waiter had already driven Su Yi's magic sedan over and parked it in front of the restaurant. He was standing by the door like a guard waiting by the side. Su Yi looked at the magic sedan that had clearly been cleaned and looked brand new. He couldn't help revealing a smile as he took out a gold coin from his chest and threw it over. This little fellow really had good eyes. Seeing that his magic sedan was dirty from driving for several hundred kilometers, he actually took the initiative to clean it for him. Of course, the gold coin tip he gave him before played the most important role. The waiter took the gold coin and opened the door with a wide smile, inviting Sue-E in. When Sue-E was about to start, the waiter suddenly bent over and said to Sue-E with an excited look, "May I ask? May I ask if you are the new Flyers chairman, Sue? You recognize me?" Sue-E was a bit surprised. The Anvil Times and the Lampury Weekly have published your picture several times. I've remembered it. Receiving Sue-Ye's confirmation, the waiter became even more excited. After hesitating a bit, he suddenly took out a pen and a piece of paper from his chest. "Can I ask you to give me an autograph?" Sue-E was even more surprised. He never thought that he would meet a fan of his. Seeing the young, excited, and nervous face of the waiter, Sue-E revealed a faint smile. He took the pen and paper and signed his name. The waiter happily waved his fist before giving a deep bow to Sue-E before moving to the side. Sue-E wasn't in a rush to start the magic sedan, rather he waved his hand at the waiter and had him come over. The waiter came over in a confused manner. "Do you have any other orders?" Sue-E pointed at the magic sedan he was sitting in. "Did you wash this car?" The waiter nodded as his expression changed and his eyes filled with a bit of fear. "Chairman Sue, are you blaming me for taking the initiative to wash your car?" "I'm not that petty." Sue-E revealed a smile. "Not to mention that you washed it very cleanly, so I'm very satisfied. I called you over because I suddenly thought of something and wanted to ask you. Tell me, is there a place in Anvil City that specializes in washing cars?" "A place that specializes in washing cars." The waiter knit his brows to think before shaking his head. "There's no such place." "Chairman Sue, do you still want to wash it? If you still need it, you can come find me and I'll wash it for you for free." "I didn't mean that." "Since there's no place in Anvil City that specializes in washing cars, then, don't you think that this is a very good chance?" "A very good chance?" The waiter was still confused. Manager Flame on the side said with a smile, "You still don't understand? Sir Chairman is reminding you that if you open a shop that specializes in washing cars, your business will be very good and you can earn a lot of money." The waiter's eyes lit up. "That's right. Why didn't I think of that?" Manager Flame laughed. "Can you compare to Sir Chairman?" The waiter ignored Manager Flame's teasing and scratched his head. After excitedly turning around a few times, he gave a dejected sigh. "It costs a lot of money to open a shop. I don't have that much money. This is very easy to solve." Sue-E turned to Manager Flame. "The car washing service can be considered a part of our company's after-sales service for the magic sedans. Flame, I've decided to test it in Anvil City. You and this. Right, what is your name?" "Noah. Alan Noah. Sir Chairman." The waiter immediately replied in a loud voice. "All right. Alan Noah, are you willing to join our new Flyers Service Center and work in the after-sales service for the magic sedans?" Sue-E asked. Noah was surprised before his eyes opened wide in excitement as he loudly said, "I'm willing. I'm willing. I even dream of joining your new flyer." "Very well, Flame. Take note of this. Noah, I hope that you can take care of your work in the restaurant as soon as possible and then report to our company's after-sales service center in the city. You can directly contact Flame, understood?" Sue-E ordered. "I understand." Noah nodded heavily. Noah gave a strong nod. "Sir Chairman, I will definitely do my best to serve you." Sue-E revealed a faint smile before starting the magic sedan and driving off. Noah behind him watched the magic sedan disappear around the corner in a daze. After a while, he forcefully waved his fist. When he turned to head back to the restaurant, his back that had always been bent because of his work was now straight. Chapter 664. I've heard that you met the chairman of the 6 magic fan companies? Yes. Then I'm guessing that other than them, are you planning on meeting the chairman of the other household magic machine companies? There is this plan. You're really planning on bringing these companies into the markets of other countries. That's what I've been doing all this time. You should know that very well. Seveny gave a slight nod and didn't ask anything else as she lowered her head to write something on the table. For a while, the large room fell into silence. Sui looked at Seveny, who was seriously writing, and found that compared to the last time they met, she was clearly a bit thinner. Her face was a bit round, and although it wasn't beautiful, it made people feel close to her. Now that she was a bit thinner, her face was a bit sharper, but in terms of appearance she was a bit more beautiful compared to before. But this destroyed her warm and gentle aura. Adding in her dignified expression, she was much more dignified compared to before and no longer made people feel close to her. This was actually something that wasn't hard to understand. If it was anyone else who had sat on the Lampari Kingdom's throne for close to 2 years, they would at least have the dignity that a queen should have. Of course, in front of Sui, Seveny was still as relaxed as before, and Sui still called her by her name in private like before. After a while, Seveny stopped writing and picked up a piece of paper for Sui. What do you think? Sui took it with a bit of surprise and found that it was a decree. The contents of the decree was that Seveny, in the name of the Queen, ordered the Lampari Kingdom's Magic Machine Industry Management Department to provide more support to the various magic machine companies in the Lampari Kingdom in terms of research and development, urging these companies to invest more in magic machine-related technology. Moreover, Seveny used her personal name to take 50,000 gold coins from the royal family's income to set up a Lampari Kingdom's Magic Machine Industry Technology Advancement Award. It was specially given to companies or individuals that made breakthroughs in magic machine technology. After Sui finished reading this decree, he pondered for a moment and said, 50,000 gold coins seems a little too little, right? Seveny rolled her eyes at Sui. I'm not as rich as you. These 50,000 gold coins were squeezed out from the royal family's income. We can't take out more than that. Then, why don't I take out some money to increase the reward? Sui suggested. Seveny shook her head. No, this is an award set up by our Lampari Kingdom. Your new flyer's participation will destroy the nature of this award, so it's not suitable. Sui thought about it and agreed. He then suggested, then I'll set up a Technology Advancement Award in the name of New Flyer. Without waiting for Seveny's reply, he shook his head to reject this idea. No, they are all in the magic machine industry. Although our New Flyer has an advantage right now, doing this will cause dissatisfaction with the other companies, so the effects won't be good. Seveny revealed a smile. It's good that you understand. Actually, you don't need to think that much. What you're doing right now is very good. If you can make these companies understand that as long as they are willing to invest in technology, they can obtain the favor of your new flyer. You can bring them into the markets of other countries and earn large amounts of money. I think that all the companies will place importance on technology development. Sui laughed. That's right. When it comes to understanding merchants, I'm more clear than anyone else. Other than benefits, there is nothing that can move merchant. Seveny took a deep look at Sui before suddenly saying with a sigh, speaking of this, I still haven't thanked you yet. Sui was surprised. Why are you suddenly thanking me for? Thanking you for finding a new path for the companies in the magic machine industry, allowing the kingdom to quickly develop. Seveny said with a serious look. Actually, I've already considered this problem. Our Lampari Kingdom is a small country after all. The magic machine industry is quickly developing in the kingdom, but it will be limited by the kingdom in the end, and it will be hard for it to develop better. Now that you can bring them out of our Lampari Kingdom, that is the greatest help to the kingdom. Sui revealed a faint smile before shaking his head. Even without me, these companies would have left the Lampari kingdom sooner or later. I'm just bringing this forward a bit, it isn't much. If it wasn't for you, the magic machine industry wouldn't have appeared at all, right? 70 said. Sui gave a shrug and said with a smile, I say, 70, with our relationship, there's no need to be so polite, right? Our relationship? 70 looked at Sui with sparkling eyes. Sui, what kind of relationship do you think there is between us? Seeing 70's serious eyes, Sui slightly knit his brows. After thinking about it, he calmly replied, At least in my heart, I've always treated you as a friend. Since we are friends, why aren't you willing to see me? 70 asked back. 70 asked back, If I didn't specially write you a letter this time, would you have come to Anvilmar City to see me? Sui gave a dry laugh and avoided 70's gaze. 70 was right. If it wasn't for 70 having Count Levi give him a private letter, he would have returned to the Principality of Constantine after staying in Banta City for 2 days and wouldn't have come to Anvilmar City. Although it was important to meet the chairman of the 6 companies, there was no need for him as the chairman to personally make a move. With the new flyer's current position, as long as he said a single word, the chairman of the 6 companies would run all the way to the Principality of Constantine to discuss this with the new flyer. Seeing Su Yi's evasive gaze, 70 gave a sigh. Actually, I know that now that I've taken the throne, you have to keep a distance from me, right? Sui gave a cough and turned to look at 70. After thinking for a bit, he said with a serious look, There is indeed this consideration. You are now the queen of the Lampari kingdom. It's impossible for you to interact with others without any scruples like before. I'm keeping a distance from you because I'm carefully protecting our friendship. If we get too close, it might not be good. 70 fell silent and looked at Sui for a bit before slowly nodding. Actually, I understand that as well. I represent the Lampari kingdom and you represent the new flyer. Although our Lampari kingdom has a close cooperation with your new flyer, both sides can maintain a very friendly relationship. But no matter what, there will be a conflict of interest. For example, there are many people in the kingdom who are opposed to establishing a joint venture factory with your new flyer. Opposed to a joint venture? Sui had a look of ridicule on his face. This means that they want to chase our new flyer out of the Lampari kingdom and do it themselves? But have these fellows never thought that without our new flyer, the Lampari kingdom wouldn't be able to produce more than 5 types of magic machines? I'm very clear on this, but those people don't understand. 70 gave a sigh, looking a bit tired. 70 looked a bit tired. I am the queen of the Lampari kingdom. I have to consider the benefits of the kingdom. Choosing to establish a joint venture factory with your new flyer, in the eyes of those people, is selling out the benefits of the kingdom. Sui couldn't help giving a cold laugh. Hey, it's fine if you don't consider the thoughts of those idiots. 70 gave a bitter laugh. The problem is that the idiots you're talking about represent a large portion of the kingdom's people. Sui looked at 70 for a while and seeing how tired she was, he couldn't help feeling a bit of pain in his heart. Actually 70 wasn't even 25 years old yet, but she had to take on the important responsibility of the entire Lampari kingdom. The other members of the royal family were either dead or living in seclusion, so no one could help her. She could only take it on by herself. Actually, there's no need to worry. As long as the kingdom keeps developing, no one in the kingdom will dare go against me. 70 suddenly raised her brows and her expression became dignified again, like she couldn't be offended. If there really are people who don't care about the big picture, I don't mind teaching them a lesson. Sui couldn't help being surprised. The previous 70 rarely had this kind of cold appearance. Was it because he had sat on the throne for too long that he naturally became like this? But this was a good change for 70. If she was still as gentle as before, it might not be a good thing to sit on the throne. Turning to see the surprised look on Su Yi's face, 70 suddenly gave a laugh. Her face was like a flower blooming, instantly being filled with sunshine. It was like she had suddenly turned from a dignified and murderous queen to a normal girl next door. Seeing her change so quickly, Sue was amazed. No matter what time it was, women were existences that he couldn't understand. Seveni looked at Sue before suddenly pressing a button by her hand. Not long after, 2 palace maids came in with some supper and food. Sue looked out the window in surprise and found that the sky was turning dark. He had met up with several people in Anvilmar City in the afternoon before accepting Seveni's invitation to enter the royal palace after dinner. The two of them had been chatting for a while, but he never thought that it would be this dark already. Sue quickly stood up to leave, but Seveni pulled his arm and had him sit down. "It's been a long time since we've met. Can you chat with me a bit before leaving?" Seeing the pleading look in Seveni's eyes and thinking of the relationship Seveni had just mentioned, Sue's heart softened and he nodded before sitting down again. Seveni revealed a look of joy. She waved her hand and had the 2 maids leave. Then she poured a cup of wine for Sue before pouring it for herself, before raising her cup to Sue. "Come, Sue, let's forget each other's identities tonight and just have a chat between friends, how about it?" Sue revealed a faint smile. "All right, it's rare that you're in the mood, how could I not accompany you?" The 2 clinked their cups and drank it all. Sue didn't say anything, but Seveni's face turned a bit red. It seemed like she couldn't handle the alcohol, but it also made her face less dignified and more charming. "Sue, do you still remember the first time we met?" Seveni asked in a gentle voice. "Of course," Sue replied with a smile. "That was my first time in Anvilmar City, and I was planning on selling agricultural magic machines." The night was strong and the wine was fragrant. The 2 drank while thinking of the past and chatting. He didn't know if it was because of the intoxicating wine or because of the past, but as he drank, Sue felt his head become heavy. After a while, he softly fell into the chair and didn't move at all. Seeing the sleeping Sue in front of her, Seveni, who should have been drunk, suddenly had her eyes light up. Although her face was still red, she didn't look drunk at all. Looking at Sue with a complicated expression for a while, Seveni gave a soft clap and the 2 maids came in. "Move him into the bedroom and follow the plan." Chapter 665. When Sue came back from the royal palace, Manager Flame, who had been waiting for him, had a strange look on his face. When Sue went to the royal palace to see Her Majesty last night and didn't come back, he didn't feel it was strange. After all, the new flyer and the Lampari Kingdom had a close relationship and Sir Chairman had a close relationship with Her Majesty Seveni, so he didn't need to worry about Sir Chairman encountering any danger in the royal palace. But now that Sue had come back and there were 2 young girls by his side, Manager Flame was very surprised. Although Sue had introduced these 2 girls named Betty and Carol as his newly recruited maids, Manager Flame was experienced and could tell that these 2 girls had just lost their virginity, so how could he not guess what had happened? If Sue was a normal large noble or large merchant, Manager Flame definitely wouldn't be surprised because this was just a normal play. With Sue's status, if he wanted to bring 2 girls home, no one would say anything. But Sue had always kept himself clean, restraining himself when it came to matters like this. So up to now, he only had a single wife in the family. As for the fact that Liz and Linda were only slaves, no one would take it seriously. Now that Sue had brought 2 back, Manager Flame would naturally be surprised. What surprised him even more was that Sir Chairman didn't stay in a large noble or merchant's house last night, but rather the royal palace. He stayed in the royal palace for a night and actually brought 2 girls back from the royal palace. This was just too unbelievable. Moreover, based on the actions of Betty and Carol, they must have been strictly trained maids in the royal palace. They definitely weren't girls that could be casually found. Not to mention that the 2 of them were this beautiful. Even in the Lampuri royal palace, they were rarely seen. Sir Chairman being able to bring the two of them out of the royal palace meant that he had received Her Majesty's approval. Perhaps the two of them were personally sent to Sir Chairman by Her Majesty. If that was really the case, then it proved that the relationship between Her Majesty and the President was definitely not ordinary. Ever since Her Majesty the Queen ascended to the throne, she had been very strict with the internal control of the palace. Not to mention ordinary people, even the great nobles of the Lampari kingdom couldn't touch anything in the palace. But now, a young man like the President could not only stay a night in the palace where all the women were, he could even have intimate relations with two maids in the palace and bring them out of the palace. This was truly inconceivable. Looking at Manager Flame's extremely strange gaze, Sui pretended not to see it. He coughed lightly, pulling him back from his shock. Flame, about the matter of the company setting up a service center in Anvilmar City. How is it going? Hearing Sui ask about proper business, Manager Flame immediately pulled his thoughts back. He composed himself and replied, Sir Chairman, this matter has already been prepared. Originally, before you came, I planned to find a time to officially announce the opening. But now that you're here, how about you personally host the opening ceremony of the service center? Seeing Manager Flame's expectant look, Sui shook his head. No, I still have other things to do, so you can host the opening ceremony. Other than that, you have to follow up on the magic car service that I told you about yesterday. You can try to have that kid named Noah manage the car wash. As for the other maintenance matters, I'll send some technicians from the company. If that Noah is willing to learn, you can help him. Hey, why are you looking at me like that? Manager Flame had a strange look. Sir Chairman, if it wasn't for the fact that that kid named Noah wasn't young anymore, I really would have suspected that he was your illegitimate child. Sui raised his leg and kicked Manager Flame as he scolded with a smile. If I had such an old, illegitimate child, Steel would definitely kill me. Manager Flame laughed, but his eyes couldn't help falling onto Betty and Carol, who were curiously looking over the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's station. Sui naturally understood his intentions and couldn't help giving a sigh. He thought that if Steel knew that he had brought back two girls after coming to Anvilmar City, he really didn't know what she would think. Shaking his head to throw away these chaotic thoughts, Sui kept reminding Manager Flame, you have to keep an eye on the cooperation with the 6 companies. If nothing unexpected happens, there will be orders from the other countries in 2 months and I will give a portion to them. When the time comes, you will be responsible for supervising their progress and product quality. This is our company's first attempt at cooperation, we can't make any mistake. Yes, I understand. Other than that, the magic flying car project with Great Magician Eisenkel has reached a new stage. In half a month, the headquarters will send a group of technicians to take care of this project. You have to be the contact person when the time comes and make sure that these technicians can smoothly cooperate with Great Magician Eisenkel. Just last week, Great Magician Eisenkel asked me about this matter. Tell him there's no rush. Since I've promised him, I will definitely help him, Sui said in a deep voice. Other than this, President Aaron has contacted me before. He hopes that our new flyer and the Sorcerers Guild can cooperate on several magic machine projects, and I've already agreed to this. You should contact President Aaron during this time and figure out what kind of cooperation he wants. I feel that we need to send a researcher from the Academy of Magic to discuss this matter with President Aaron. No problem, I'll write a letter to the headquarters later and have them send someone over. Also, Sui gave orders one by one and Manager Flame wrote them down one by one. Manager Flame had been in charge of the new flyer in Anvilmar City for over 2 years. Even when His Highness Eric took the throne and Duke Stagg started the Civil War, he still kept the basic functions of the new flyer's office here, showing his excellent abilities. In these 2 years, The Frestek Chamber of Commerce had entered the Lampuri Kingdom, and he had fully displayed his abilities in Anvilmar City. He had established a good relationship with all the people in Anvilmar City who were related to the Frestek Chamber of Commerce, helping the Frestek Chamber of Commerce develop smoothly in Anvilmar City. Sui was very confident in his abilities, so he was willing to give him all these important matters to take care of. However, Manager Flame was very confused. After hearing Sui's orders, he couldn't help asking, "Sir Chairman, it's hard enough for you to come to Anvilmar City. It's best if you personally see these people and talk to them, right? If you personally go, the effects will be countless times better than if I go. Right now, could it be that you're not planning on staying in Anvilmar City for a few more days?" "Yes, I'm planning on leaving today." "You're in this much of a rush?" Manager Flame was surprised. "You just came yesterday." "The most important thing has already been done, the rest doesn't matter," Sui calmly said. "Moreover, I still have important things to do, I can't stay here for too long." Manager Flame slightly knit his brows, thinking that Sir Chairman's words were a bit insincere. No matter what, since he was already in Anvilmar City, it meant that he could take the time. But after coming here with great difficulty, he only stayed for a single night before leaving. He wasn't even willing to take care of these important matters and left them all to him. This was too strange. If what he just said wasn't important, then he could have left the matter of meeting the 6th Company Chairman to Flame and didn't need to do it himself. Why was it that in just a single night, Sir Chairman went from being so positive to being so negative? Could it be something happened in the royal palace last night that caused him to be so disheartened? Manager Flame glanced at Betty and Carol on the side, feeling strange. It was reasonable to say that what happened to Sir Chairman in the royal palace last night should be a good thing. Sui didn't pay attention to Manager Flame's strange gaze. Seeing that he hadn't missed anything, he didn't stay any longer and planned on leaving. Betty and Carol had been sent to the royal palace since they were young, so their relationship with their parents had already been severed. They didn't have any relatives or friends in Anvilmar City, so they could leave whenever they wanted. Sui decided to leave, so naturally the two of them obediently left with Sui. After sitting in Sui's magic sedan, the two of them were very excited. Because this was one of the few times they had left the royal palace, and they were sitting in the magic sedan that they could only watch from afar before. Thinking of the new life they were about to welcome, the two of them were filled with excitement and nervousness. Seeing Sui driving the magic sedan in front, the two of them were even more nervous. Even if Her Majesty had praised the two of them many times in private, Chairman Su was gentle and treated women equally, not even discriminating against slaves. He was a good man that was hard to come by. But looking at him from the side, they found that there was a bit of impatience in Sui's calm expression, like he wasn't that happy. Could it be that Chairman Su isn't satisfied with us? Betty and Carol couldn't help guessing in their hearts. But no matter if Sui liked them or not, when Her Majesty had them help her with her plan, their fates were already set and there was no way to change it. Now that they were sitting in Sui's magic sedan, it was even more impossible to change it. The only thing the two of them could do was pray that Sui was really as good as Her Majesty had described him to be. But thinking about what happened last night, the two of them still felt like they were in a dream. This Chairman Su, he might never know what happened last night. Chapter 666. The sun continued to set behind them, and it looked like it was about to reach the furthest horizon. The afterglow of the setting sun shined over and dyed the surface of the sea orange. At the same time, the unfolding wings, the morning sun, and the goddess of victory Iris were covered in a layer of light yellow paint. It looked very beautiful. Narvel narrowed his eyes and looked at the endless sea behind him. He then turned around and looked at the endless sea in front of him that was turning black. He nodded slightly and said to the assistant beside him, Tell them to slow down and enter the night sailing phase. The assistant received the order, and after a while, the speed of the unfolding wings clearly slowed down. The morning sun and the goddess of victory Iris on the left and right also slowed down. They maintained a triangular formation with the unfolding wings and continued to head east on the vast sea. Narvel came to the railing and looked at the surface of the sea. Although they had slowed down and the waves created by the unfolding wings were much smaller than before, it was still countless times bigger than any of the ships that Narvel had been on before. If it happened to hit a wave, the splashes could even reach a height of several meters. Narvel had lived on the sea for so many years and always liked to watch the waves created by the ship. However, before this, he had never seen a ship like the Morning Sun. Even after crashing into such high waves, it was still able to move forward at a steady speed. Stability and safety were the deepest feelings that Narvel had ever felt in the 3 months since he had boarded the unfolding wings. Compared to the wooden ships that Narvel had been on before, the unfolding wings was dozens of times bigger. Also, because it was made of steel, when it sailed on the sea, it was very stable. In the past, when he was driving those wooden ships, he would often encounter a relatively large wave, and the entire ship would shake violently, giving people the illusion that the entire ship would capsize in the next moment. However, on this unfolding wings, normal waves would not be able to affect them in the slightest. Staying on the deck was like staying on flat ground. Even if they encountered a large and fierce wave, the unfolding wings would still be able to steadily move forward without any ripples, making people feel at ease. Thinking of this, Narvel's mind couldn't help but think of the dangerous situation he experienced 3 days ago. 3 days ago, when the fleet was sailing through a bay at night, they accidentally encountered a sudden storm. At that time, the storm was extremely violent and the situation was extremely bad. If they had encountered such a violent storm when they were out at sea in the past, there was almost no chance of survival. However, in the face of such a strong storm, the 3 giant magic boats of the unfolding wings far surpassed the safety of normal wooden boat. Although the hull would still be affected and jolted, the overall situation was unusually stable. With the wind and water magic arrays on the 3 magic ships to deal with the bad weather on the sea, the 3 magic ships didn't encounter any real danger from beginning to end. When the storm passed and the sea returned to normal, including Narvel, everyone was in disbelief. The people on these 3 ships were all seasoned sailors who had made a living at sea for many years. They were more familiar with the dangers of the sea than the average person. Therefore, they were well aware of the terrifying dangers hidden in this sudden storm. Most of them had already sentenced themselves to death in their hearts. But no one thought that the 3 unfolding wings magic boats would be able to pass this danger so easily. After everyone escaped from death, they had a new understanding and trust in the abilities of the 3 magic boat. If it was said that when they set off from Shinfei Harbor, everyone's hearts were filled with uncertainty and fear, but after experiencing this storm, everyone was filled with confidence. Everyone believed that with these 3 powerful magic boats, they could even sail to the furthest corners of the world from the sea. Narvel also firmly believed in this point. But as the commander of this fleet, he had to consider the actual situation. Since they set off from Shinfei Harbor, it had already been close to 20 days. Based on the sea map, most of the journey was already over. If they landed on the shore now, they should be in the kingdom of Ruhr. If nothing unexpected happened, as long as they could last for less than a week, they should be able to reach Nissi City. Actually, with the unfolding wings magic boats that could reach a maximum speed of 40 kilometers an hour, they didn't need to take this long. They knew that they would be able to complete this trip in less than a week. But because this was their first trip, the mission of this fleet wasn't just to transport the goods to Nissi City, they also needed to explore the route and lay the foundation for future voyages. So during the entire trip, Narvel had been very careful, strictly controlling the speed. Moreover, He had recorded the situation of the surrounding sea along the way, creating a sea map, so naturally they were much slower. Although it was safer to go slower, there were quite a few problems. The first one was the problem of supplies. Even if Narvel had set off from Shinfei Harbor for a month and had prepared supplies for a month, when sailing on the sea, there were all kinds of accidents that couldn't be avoided. It caused the supplies to be consumed much faster than Narvel had planned. With the remaining supplies on the 3 magic boats, they could still support the fleet for around 10 days. In theory, it should be enough for the fleet to reach Nissi City. But if there were any more accidents, it would be hard to say. The other supplies were easy to take care of, but once the most important freshwater on the sea was gone, there really was nowhere to go. Thinking of the seriousness of this problem, Narvel couldn't help thinking of the matter that Sir Chairman had mentioned to him before they set off. He said that he was considering developing the magic freshwater purifier. If this thing was successfully developed, it would be much more convenient to have a few on board when sailing in the future. But right now, he had to solve the problem in front of him first. Narvel looked at the vast sea in front of the fleet and looked up at the observation deck in the middle of the unfolding wings ship. He took out the magic communicator in his hand and said, "Mace, watch it for me. If you see any large islands nearby, tell me ahead of time and we'll try to get some supplies from those islands." Understood. There was a slightly frivolous voice that came from the magic communicator before lowering its voice. "But Captain, it's getting dark, we can't see clearly at all." "Cut the crap. Just do as I say. Not only today, you have to pay attention to this every day, understood?" Narvel said in a deep voice. "Oh, I understand. But after watching for so long, I haven't seen any large islands at all. I say, Captain, is there a problem with the route we chose? I feel that if we were closer to the coastline, there would be more of these islands." "Do I need you to waste words?" Narvel angrily reprimanded. If possible, of course he knew that it would be safer to sail closer to the coastline and it would be easier to get supplies from the coast. But no matter how good the unfolding wings ship was, there was a problem. It was that the ship was too big and because it was made of steel, it was very heavy, so it was too deep in the water. If they were too close to the coastline, it was fine if they were familiar with the sea, but if they weren't familiar with the sea, they might hit a reef and run aground. If this really happened, how could he have the face to see Sir Chairman? Then again, the main mission of this fleet was to explore the route, so Narvel had deliberately chosen a route that he didn't understand. But the route he chose this time didn't have any suitable islands that could be used as a supply station, so he couldn't get any supplies. He was currently vexed by this matter, and this Matt was still being long-winded, which naturally made him unhappy. Matt was Narvel's old subordinate, so naturally he could hear that his tone wasn't good. Matt looked down at the deck and saw Narvel pacing around the deck. He knew that Narvel was thinking about something important, so he stuck out his tongue and didn't say anything else. He turned to look at the sea in the distance. At this time, more than half of the setting sun had already sunk into the distant horizon. The sea in the east had already turned dark. Even though Mace's eyesight was excellent and he was equipped with binoculars, he couldn't see anything at all. After glancing around, Matt muttered. He was about to put down the binoculars and rest for a while. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a group of black shadows on the sea in the distance. They were quickly approaching. Matt was startled for a moment, but he immediately reacted. He jumped up and stretched his head out to the deck and shouted, "There are pirates!" The sharp shout entered the ears of everyone on the deck of the unfolding wings ship, causing everyone to be shocked. Pirates, to these people who had lived on the sea for many years, it wasn't an unfamiliar term. But they had already sailed for over 10 days. Maybe it was because they were in the deep sea and avoided the coastline, so it was very peaceful. Everyone had almost forgotten about the pirate. They never thought that they would encounter pirates when they entered the waters of the Kingdom of Roer and weren't far from their destination. Hearing Matt's shout, Narvel stopped. He first looked up at the observation deck and then looked forward, but he couldn't see anything in the darkness. After being stunned for a while, Narvel's face didn't reveal any fear, but rather joy appeared in his eyes. There are pirates? Haha, great. Chapter 667. Ragsar stared at the lights on the dark sea in front of him, his eyes filled with endless greed. Ever since the damned Kingdom of Roer announced that they would build Nissi City and turn it into the largest and most prosperous port city in the south of the Signs, the pirates near the Kingdom of Roer's waters didn't have an easy time. In order to ensure the peace around Nissi City, the Rudsun Kingdom's first and second fleet had gone crazy over the past 2 months. They would go out to patrol the seas when they had nothing to do and would attack pirates when they saw them, not showing any mercy. In the past, the pirates could rely on their flexibility to play hide and seek with the regular fleets of the Kingdom of Roer, but now the Kingdom of Roer's first and second fleets were constantly patrolling the waters near Nissi City. The pirates didn't have any space to live and could only stay far away from Nissi City. According to the information obtained from other pirates, even the largest pirate king in this area, Sothkag, had been captured and imprisoned by the First Fleet. Nissi City's city lord Melito Count was also exposed and was also imprisoned. It was said that he would be executed in 2 months. This caused all the pirates near Nissi City, and even the pirates in the Kingdom of Roer's waters to panic. The timid ones even directly escaped from the Kingdom of Roer's waters. As for those like Ragsar who weren't willing to leave the Kingdom of Roer, they entered the deep sea and came to an island that he had discovered a long time ago as a base, waiting for an opportunity to act. However, with the current standard of navigation in the Signs, whether it was commercial ships or ordinary fishing boats, they could only sail near the sea. Very few people would come to the deep sea. Adding on the fact that Nissi City had been strictly controlling the nearby seas were unprecedentedly safe. All the commercial ships and fishing boats would only choose to sail near the coastline. Therefore, after Ragsar led his subordinates back to the deep-sea pirate base, in the past 2 months, they hadn't done a single business. Being a pirate was a profession that lived on the edge of a blade. They had always lived one day at a time, so they didn't have any savings on hand. Even though Ragsar was the leader of the Thunderbolt pirates and had some foresight, building a base on this island in the deep sea and storing some supplies there in case of emergencies, after 2 months of not having any business, these supplies seemed to be a bit lacking. If it wasn't for a subordinate who had followed his orders to search the nearby waters 3 days ago and reported seeing a huge fleet, Ragsar might have rushed into the waters near Nissi City at the risk of being caught. Now that he personally saw 3 incomparably large ships that were like fierce beasts, Ragsar's heart was filled with shock, but he was also filled with joy. These 3 large ships, they must have a large amount of goods. If he could snatch all the goods from these 3 ships, he would be rich. Boss! An assistant standing beside Ragsar suddenly spoke. "HM? What is it?" Ragsar was currently focused on the 3 large ships that were getting closer and closer. He was praising them while drooling, but hearing this, he impatiently replied. "Boss, these 3 ships are so big. Are we really going to make a move?" Ragsar knit his brows and turned to see his subordinate's uneasy face. He cursed and reprimanded. "Nonsense! If we don't make a move, are we going to let our brothers starve? It's not like you don't know the situation on the island. We won't be able to last more than a few days. Instead of going to Nissi City to fight those brats from the first and second fleets, it's better to steal some goods here." "But these 3 ships are so big, I feel like it won't be easy." "Bullshit!" Ragsar slapped his subordinate's head. "Is this your first day as a pirate? No matter how big the ships are, they still need people to control them. In a bit, we'll charge onto the ships and kill everyone we see. Do you think we won't be able to control these ships?" But these 3 ships are so big, there should be a lot of people on them." The subordinate was still uneasy. What are these rookies afraid of? When have they not obediently surrendered when they see us? If there's no other way, we'll just kill a few more. Ragsar waved his hand and gave a cold snort. He turned to look at the 3 ships and couldn't help licking his lip. "You don't say, even if these 3 ships don't have any goods, just by taking these 3 ships, we'll be rich." Seeing Ragsar's expression, the subordinate endured it. In the end, he only sighed in his heart and didn't continue to persuade him. As Ragsar's subordinate, he was very clear on the situation of the Thunderbolt pirates. If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't hold on, Ragsar wouldn't have chosen to take such a risk. However, compared to entering Nissi City's waters and fighting with the Kingdom of Ruor's first or second fleet and then being crushed, the risk of stealing these 3 ships was much lower. In the end, no matter how big these 3 ships were, they were only merchant ships from what they had observed over the past few days. This was because the sailors didn't even have any visible weapons on them. Hey, they came to our Kingdom of Ruor's waters and still dared to be so careless. They're simply delivering themselves to us. Thinking of this, the subordinate's heart calmed down. He tightened his grip on the steel blade in his right hand and looked at the 3 ships in the distance. These rookies, they still dared to light themselves up in the middle of the night. This was simply telling others to come steal them. Hey, this uncle won't be a guest." Just as a smile appeared on the deputy's face, he suddenly saw a few spots of light blue light on the nearest huge ship, and then quickly flew over. In the blink of an eye, these lights were right in front of him. What the hell is this? While Ragsar and his subordinate were in a daze, they saw these lights fall into the dark sea in front of them. Boom, 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 violent and muffled explosions rang out. The calm sea at night was instantly blown up into monstrous waves. Ragsar and his assistant, as well as the several dozen pirates on the same ship, could only watch as the giant wave crashed down, sending the wooden ship flying into the sky. While it was still in the air, the wooden ship had already been smashed into a pile of wood by the huge waves. Ragsar and his subordinate only felt a sweet taste in their throat. They spat out a mouthful of blood from the huge impact. Then their vision turned black and they lost consciousness. Hashtag. After an unknown amount of time, Ragsar was awakened by a dazzling light coming from outside his eyelid. His dizzy head made him daze for a while before he finally reacted. He barely opened his eyes and saw a blue sky and white clouds. "Awake!" An emotionless voice sounded from the side. Ragsar turned his head and saw a middle-aged man with a small beard and a dark face. He looked like a middle-aged man who lived on the sea all day. Turning his head to look around, he realized that he was on a huge deck. There were pillars and railings made of fine iron everywhere. Feeling his body slightly rise and fall, Ragsar could easily tell that he was still on the surface of the sea. With such a large deck, apart from those 3 giant steel monster ships, it was impossible for it to be any other ship. Then this means that I was caught by these fellows? Ragsar looked down at the rope holding him up. He turned his head and frowned as he asked the middle-aged man in a cold voice, "Why did you save me?" He already remembered what happened last night. They wanted to attack the 3 giant ships, but before they could even get close, they were shot into the sky by the unknown things released by the 3 ships. The entire process was short and simple. He didn't even understand what had happened before he fainted from the explosion. "Because you're still useful." Narvel looked down at Ragsar and nodded in satisfaction. This pirate leader's mind was not bad. It seemed like there was no problem getting the information he wanted from him. "Useful?" Ragsar looked at Narvel with a confused look. "These guys have 3 huge ships, and they even have such terrifying weapons. What's the point of keeping me alive?" "Right." Narvel laughed and pulled out a chair to sit beside Ragsar. "Hey, you're called Ragsar, right? I heard you're the leader of the Thunderbolt pirates?" Ragsar coldly snorted, knowing that this group of people had definitely saved more than just him. They had probably already heard about his confidence from the other pirates. "It's me, what about it?" Narvel didn't care about Ragsar's attitude as he patted his shoulder with a smile. He didn't know if it was intentional or not, but this slap landed on the wound on Ragsar's shoulder, making him frown from the pain. "I heard that your Thunderbolt pirates made a small island nearby as a base?" Narvel then asked. Since the other side had already gotten the information from his companions, Ragsar didn't feel like doing any meaningless concealment. "That's right. I made a small island, are you interested?" "Of course." Narvel laughed. "Since this small island can be used as a base, there should be something we want on it. How about it? Ragsar, are you interested in cooperating with us?" Cooperation? Ragsar looked at Narvel in shock. Was this person crazy? He caught a pirate like him and didn't throw him into the sea to feed the fish like the other merchants. He also didn't send him to the pass, but he wanted to cooperate with him? With a pirate like him who had nothing. What was there to cooperate with? Chapter 668. An hour later, the unfolding wings, the morning sun, and the goddess of victory Iris brought Narvel and the captured pirates to an island that was 40 kilometers southeast of where the robbery happened last night. This island that Ragsar named Thunderbolt Island wasn't considered small. If one stood on the deck of the unfolding wings, they wouldn't even be able to see the other side of the island. As for the distance to the left and right, according to Narvel's estimate, it was at least 5 kilometers. There were some women and children gathered on the beach in the distance. Seeing the 3 giant magic boats approaching, these women and children began to stir, as they began to chatter. There were some children who were jumping around, as if they were very excited. "Are these the relatives of your pirates?" Narvel asked Ragsar beside him. Ragsar nodded with an expressionless face. "Then how many people are there on the island?" "I'm talking about the women and children," Narvel asked again. Ragsar looked at Narvel with a strange look before his heart skipped a beat and a surprised look appeared on his face. These 3 ships were equipped with such powerful weapons, they definitely weren't normal merchants. This fellow was now worried about the women and children on the island. Could it be that were they human traffickers? Seeing the strange expression on Ragsar's face, Narvel didn't know that his thoughts were wrong, but that wasn't important. Now that Ragsar and his 100 subordinates were in his hands, he wasn't afraid of them playing any tricks. "Tell me how many people there are. If there are enough people, perhaps I can think of a better way to cooperate." Hearing Narvel say the word cooperation again, Ragsar still felt that it was a bit unbelievable. He couldn't understand no matter what value did he have to cooperate with him. Adding in the brothers, there are just over 500 people on the island. Ragsar honestly replied. 500. It's not enough, but it's still all right. Narvel thought about it before making a hand gesture behind him. The 2 unfolding wings sailors behind him nodded and left. After a while, Ragsar heard the sound of waves splashing. "Come, we'll take a look at the island." Ragsar followed Narvel in a confused manner. When he came to the side of the unfolding wings, he saw Narvel grab a rope and slip down. Ragsar looked down and saw that Narvel had landed on a boat that was a bit bigger than the wooden boat they normally used, but it was also made of iron. "Go down." The 2 sailors behind him pushed Ragsar. At this point, Ragsar didn't think too much as he grabbed the rope and easily slid down. After a while, several sailors also slid down the rope. Then Ragsar saw Narvel press a button on a complicated platform at the front of the ship. The ship trembled before it charged forward. In just a moment, the ship reached an extremely high speed, completely surpassing the speed of the fastest ship Ragsar had ever seen. Ragsar looked at the ship. Was the ship, was the unfolding of the ship, was Narvel's was the ship of wind wings. Narvel, 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 narvel wings, narvel, narvel, vil, narvel, narvel, narrow, island, and narrow. Narvel and the sailors jumped off the ship and brought Ragsar onto the island. Behind them, there were a few more iron ships that looked exactly the same as the first one, and they stopped at the shore. There were several dozen sailors holding strange-looking crossbows that jumped off, as well as several young men and women who had elegant auras and skin that wasn't as dark as the sailors. Captain Ragsar, pick a few people who are familiar with the situation on the island and bring them around. Narvel smiled and said to Ragsar. Ragsar finally couldn't take it. I say, what do you want to do? I've fallen into your hands, I have nothing to say. But you won't kill me or release me, what do you want to do? I've said it before, I want to cooperate with you. Narvel revealed a faint smile, but Ragsar really wanted to punch him in the face. Cooperate my ass. We are all pirates, how can we cooperate with you? Don't look down on yourself. Narvel waved his hand with a smile. Pirates are also very valuable, especially when you have this good island. Alright, do as I say and pick a few people. Remember, don't play any tricks, your 100 brothers are still in my hands. Ragsar glared at Narvel. He walked to the side of the pirate relatives who were still in shock and gave them instructions. After a while, 5 young women and 2 old men came out. Narvel took a look and had the 2 old men leave. He split the other 5 young women into 3 groups, and the young men and women with different temperaments were split into 3 groups. They worked together with the 10 sailors that came down from the ship and headed into the island. After they left, Narvel brought several dozen fully armed sailors and Ragsar into the pirate gathering point on the island. Although this pirate Ragsar had been operating for a long time, the Thunderbolt pirates were still a group of pirates. They didn't have much resources, so up until now, there wasn't a single decent house on the island. The residents of the island only lived in tree houses made of wood. They didn't even have the most basic shelter from the wind and rain. Narvel looked at the situation of the houses and seemed even more satisfied. After a while, he pulled Ragsar to sit down on a stone in front of a treehouse. Hey, Captain Ragsar, looking at the situation here, it seems like your Thunderbolt pirates aren't doing that well. Ragsar gave a snort. Nonsense. If we had money, who would come here to be a pirate? That's reasonable. Narvel nodded and the smile on his face became even brighter. Then, Captain Ragsar, do you want the people in your pirate group to live a better life? Ragsar narrowed his eyes and looked at Narvel for a while. Are you joking? No, I'm not joking. Commander Ragsar, in truth, I do have the intention of cooperating with you. Look, we actually came from the Principality of Constantine and aren't familiar with the situation here, so we need someone familiar with the surrounding waters to cooperate with us. Ragsar glanced at the 3 giant steel ships parked outside the island and shook his head. Looking at you, you don't need our help at all. If you need to be familiar with the surrounding situation, you can go to Nissi City to find help. To be honest, we are indeed going to Nissi City to do business. However, Captain Ragsar, I believe you should know that there are some things that are hard to do through the government. Seeing the deep smile on Narvel's face, Ragsar's heart skipped a beat and his mind instantly became active. Hearing this fellow's words, it seemed like he needed some other help. Thinking of this, Ragsar's expression was no longer as cold as before. After pausing for a bit, he asked back, Then tell me, if I cooperate with you, what benefits does it bring to me and my pirate group? First of all, it's money. Narvel very casually reached into his chest and pulled out a handful of gold coins. The sun was shining brightly and the gold coins reflected a golden light in Narvel's hand. It immediately made the breathing of Ragsar and the people on the island quicken. Next, there are many benefits other than money, but you won't believe me. How about this? Narvel turned around and waved at a sailor behind him. Hayes, you say it. That sailor walked over and looked over Ragsar. He then looked at the people on the island and shook his head. His expression was filled with disdain. Ragsar was infuriated by his gaze. He was about to glare back, but his next words caught his attention. "Hey, I'm called Hayes. I came from the sea outside the Black Rice Wasteland, from an island called Karaska. I was like you before, a pirate. The life on the island before was just a bit better than yours, but it was also very hard. However, ever since our Karaska Island was chosen by Sir Chairman, everyone's life has changed. Narvel, is there no problem with you doing this?" In the distance, Narvel's assistant looked at Hayes and Ragsar with worry as he asked Narvel. "Sir Chairman said that as long as we find the route, we'll have completed our mission. Aren't you afraid of Sir Chairman being angry with you causing trouble? Do you think that without Sir Chairman's orders, I would dare to act on my own?" Narvel calmly looked at his assistant. The assistant was surprised. Then, "This is Sir Chairman's orders?" "It can't be said that it's Sir Chairman's orders." Narvel shook his head. "But before we left, Sir Chairman told me in private that he wanted me to find a chance to find a supply base in the kingdom of Ruhr like Karaska Island. I was worried about how to complete this mission before, but these pirates came knocking on my door." The assistant suddenly realized, so it's like this. No wonder I kept saying that with our reserves we could increase our speed and definitely make it to Nissi City, but you didn't rush at all and kept worrying about supplies. Narvel laughed. "This is my first time doing a mission alone. If I don't do it beautifully, how can Sir Chairman see me in a different light?" The assistant nodded, and after thinking for a bit, he asked, "Then what are you planning on doing?" Narvel looked at Ragsar, who was listening in the distance, and said with a faint smile, "It's very simple. Sir Chairman said that any problem that can be solved with money isn't a problem. And these pirates just happen to be short of money." Chapter 669. The next morning, the unfolding wings and the 3 large magic boats set off from Thunderbolt Island. Unlike when they first arrived, when the residents of the island saw the 3 giant steel monsters, they were somewhat uneasy. When they left, the residents of the island all expressed their farewells one by one, their faces brimming with happy smiles. The residents of the island didn't know what kind of agreement their leader had made with these uninvited guests, but they could see that these uninvited guests were bringing down large amounts of living goods from the 3 giant ships. Not only were there daily necessities like oil, salt, and vinegar, there were also large amounts of delicious meat. There were even a bunch of strange iron tools that were brought down. As long as a magic crystal was placed in these iron tools, they would automatically move and display all kinds of strange effects. For example, the magic fan could automatically rotate at high speeds, blowing out cool air. For example, the magic furnace could automatically release flames without needing to light a fire. For example, the magic they learned from the most knowledgeable fellows on the island that these things were household magic machines that were very popular in the kingdom of Ruhr. These things weren't cheap at all. Just the cheapest magic fan cost 5 gold coins each. As for the household magic machines that the guests brought down, their total price would definitely be over 300 gold coins. If the daily necessities were added in, these guests had left gifts worth over 500 gold coins on the island. What they exchanged for was just large amounts of fresh water. This fresh water was very precious on the sea, but on Thunderbolt Island, that had 3 natural springs and a natural freshwater lake, it wasn't worth mentioning at all. The residents of the island were happy, but they were also a bit doubtful. These guests had a lot of fully armed subordinates, so it made sense that the leader didn't dare to rob them directly. However, why didn't these guests, who were so powerful, just go straight to the island and rob them of the fresh water they desperately needed? Instead, they wanted to use such precious resources to exchange for it. Could it be that they were really like what the dark-skinned middle-aged man who always had a smile on his face had said? That they were just normal merchants who paid attention to the equal exchange of everything? The people of the island disdained this idea, but that didn't stop them from happily enjoying the gifts left by the guests. However, very few people noticed that the usually straightforward Ragsar leader had become silent after the guests left. It was as if he was in a trance, as if he was worried about something. Hashtag, Captain, do you think that Ragsar will be willing to cooperate with us? The adjutant looked back and found that Thunderbolt Island was already far away on the horizon, not being able to see a trace of it at all. He couldn't help asking this to Narvel. Of course, Narvel said confidently. Narvel said in a confident voice, this cooperation is very beneficial to him and the Thunderbolt pirates, so he will definitely agree. But if we leave like this, what if he goes back on his words? Relax, he doesn't dare and he doesn't want to go. Narvel said Narvel with a faint smile. Narvel, and Narvel. But if he was really that stupid, he wouldn't have become the leader of this pirate group. He also wouldn't have thought of preparing an island in advance as a backup plan for his pirate group. He is a pirate leader with foresight, so he will definitely understand the benefits of cooperating with us. The adjutant thought about it and nodded. I think so too. Narvel laughed. Actually, it doesn't matter if he's not willing to cooperate. Without the Thunderbolt pirates, there are still other pirate groups. We can choose to cooperate with many other people, and it's not just limited to them. Not to mention that we already know the location of Thunderbolt Island and the situation on the island, so it doesn't matter if the Thunderbolt pirates are there or not. Hearing Narvel mention the situation on Thunderbolt Island, the adjutant couldn't help revealing a happy smile. That's right, I really didn't think that this small Thunderbolt Island would have a natural rare ore vein and a natural deep-sea port. As long as we develop it a bit, it can become our new flyers overseas base. If Sir Chairman knew about this, he would definitely be very happy. Not only that, this Thunderbolt Island's location is very good, it's near our route and there are many other islands within 100 kilometers. If we connect them together, we can completely control this sea region. With the current strength of the Kingdom of Ruhr, they won't be able to take care of this place. So as long as our company makes a move, this place and the deeper parts of the sea will belong to our new flyer. And Sir Chairman has always emphasized the importance of controlling the sea region, so I think he will place a lot of importance on this sea region. Of course, Sir Chairman's foresight isn't something we can compare to. The only problem now is how to make the Kingdom of Ruhr accept this situation. Narvel looked towards the northeast. They could already see the horizon in the distance. According to the map Ragsar provided, they would be close to Nissi City's port if they were close to the sea. If they reached Nissi City's port, it would mean that they had reached the end of their voyage. This was a long voyage of close to 3,000 kilometers. Before this, the furthest voyage Narvel knew of was only 1,000 kilometers in the sea, and it had always been close to the coast. But this time, not only had they sailed twice as far, they had also sailed in the deep sea without people. Compared to this, it was countless times more difficult. If they didn't have the 3 giant magic boats as companions, even Narvel wouldn't have the courage to complete this voyage. However, the successful completion of this voyage allowed Narvel and all of his subordinates to accumulate valuable and rich experience. This would allow their next voyage to be much smoother and faster than this one. When they had more experience, Narvel would have enough confidence. Like Sir Chairman said, he would go into the endless seas and explore the furthest reaches of the world. Hashtag. When the new flyer fleet was about to reach Nissi City's port, Su-Yi was driving his magic sedan on a newly built road in the Kingdom of Ruhr's southwest province. If they were talking about the distance in a straight line, he was less than 500 kilometers from the unfolding wings. But while the unfolding wings was sailing on the endless seas, Su-Yi was driving his magic sedan through the wilderness. The only thing they had in common was that there was no one in their surroundings. Sui, are you certain that the Azhara tribe is nearby? Elder Lysania, sitting in the front passenger seat, looked around at the barren land before asking Sui this with a frown. According to the agreement between the two, after Sui returned to the Principality of Constantine from Anvilmar City, Elder Lysania and Sui set off together. They headed to the Kingdom of Ruhr to meet the Elven tribe in the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Azhara tribe. Elder Lysania had already accepted the cooperation between the elves and humans, and she agreed with Elder Ilusia's worries. If the elves lived in seclusion for a long time, they would be left behind by the continent sooner or later, and would slowly disappear in the river of history. So after learning that the new flyer had found the Azhara tribe in the Kingdom of Ruhr, Elder Lysania hoped that the Azhara tribe could be like the Nightsong tribe and their Moon Shadow tribe, cooperating with the new flyer to strengthen their tribe. There were fewer and fewer elven tribes on signs right now. As an elder of an elven tribe, Elder Lysania and Elder Ilusia were the same. In order to continue the elven race, they had thought of all kinds of method. Cooperating with the new flyer allowed her to see hope for the elves and humans to live together peacefully. Of course, she hoped that the other elven tribes could follow suit. The traces that Steele found before and the first contact with the Azhara tribe were all around here. Sui nodded before feeling a bit doubtful. But it's really strange. We're surrounded by wilderness. Don't you elves like to live in dense forests? Under normal circumstances, we elves do like to live in forests because we like to be close to nature. But if we're forced into a corner, it's not like we can't live in other places. When you humans have no other choice, can't you also live in all kinds of harsh environment? Elder Lysania's tone was somewhat helpless. Sui looked at the wilderness in front of him and thought that although it was a bit barren, it couldn't be considered harsh. If the elves weren't satisfied with this environment, it could only be said that their requirements were too high. But thinking about the elves' persistent pursuit of perfection, it wasn't strange. Sigh, it would be great if Steele could come. She personally came in contact with the elves here last time. It's a pity that I don't know what's going on with the Azhara tribe, but at most they only agreed to let 2 of us come. They don't even trust an elf like Elder Lysania. Sui gave a sigh and stopped the car. He took out a map that wasn't that detailed and looked at it. After confirming the direction, he moved a bit closer to the north before continuing forward. There's no other way, we elves don't trust humans that much. As for our elves, if they're not from the same tribe, we don't trust them that much. Elder Lysania was also very helpless as she couldn't help shaking her head. She didn't feel that there was a problem with the elves before, but after working with the new flyer for so long and experiencing all kinds of things, she deeply felt that this arrogance characteristic wasn't that great. I hope that when I see my elves from the Azhara tribe, I can have a good talk with them. Elder Lysania gave a sigh in her heart. The magic sedan continued to drive through the wilderness at high speeds for a while before Elder Lysania's expression suddenly changed as she had Sui stop. Sui raised a brow at Elder Lysania. I can feel the unique barrier of our elves, but it seems a bit different. Elder Lysania slightly knit her brows as she revealed a bit of doubt. After closing her eyes for a bit, Elder Lysania opened the door and walked a bit before reaching out to touch the void. After a while, there was a faint green glow that appeared in Elder Lysania's hand. The entire void seemed to distort as it gradually revealed a different scene. After a while, Elder Lysania waved her right hand and a door suddenly appeared in the void in front of her. It really is hidden behind the elven barrier, no wonder I couldn't find it. Elder Lysania waved her hand at Sui with a smile. Let's go, they shouldn't welcome you driving your magic sedan in. Sui nodded and got out of the car. He came in front of the void door and looked inside before condensing his magic and walking in. Chapter 670. Just like when he entered the Night Song tribe and Moon Shadow tribe's elven barrier, Su-Yi saw an illusion when he passed through the barrier. But there were some differences. When he passed through the Night Song tribe and Moon Shadow tribe's elven barrier, the illusions that floated in front of his eyes were either natural scenery or illusions left behind by the elves of the Night Song tribe and Moon Shadow tribe. But when he passed through this elven barrier, the illusions that floated in front of Su-Yi's eyes were some grand and glorious scenes high up in the clouds. It looked especially grand. When the illusions in front of his eyes gradually disappeared, and Su-Yi saw the situation behind the elven barrier, he was even more shocked. The Night Song tribe and Moon Shadow tribe's elven barrier was only to hide the elven tribe's situation and not let others discover the elven tribe inside. But in reality, from the outside of the barrier, it still maintained the same environment as the outside world. For example, the Night Song tribe was in the falling rain forest. The elven barrier set up by the Night Song tribe, no matter from the outside or the inside, was the same as the falling rain forest. No one could see any difference. The elven barrier would only mislead others to other places. But outside this elven barrier was a wasteland. And inside the elven barrier, what entered his eyes was an extremely vast forest. Moreover, this forest was different from the falling rain forest and slight dream forest. The falling rain forest and slight dream forest were ordinary forests that could be seen everywhere in the signs. The trees were lush, and the ground was covered with grass and vines. But the trees in this forest were a bit sparse. Every tree was at least 10 meters apart, and there was only a patch of grass on the ground. Almost every one of them was the same height, and there were no vines mixed in. It was just like a man-made lawn. Su-Yi's gaze swept past the surrounding trees that were at least 10 meters in diameter. He couldn't see the top of the trees when he raised his head. His heart was filled with shock. This kind of strange forest, not to mention Earth, even on the Signs continent there was nothing like this. Su-Yi was certain that this forest was not naturally formed because it went against the laws of nature. Then there was only one possibility. This was the elves using their powerful control over plants to forcefully change it into this. Su-Yi had heard Agnes mention this in private before. This kind of forest was the most perfect place for the elves to live in. Thinking of this, Su-Yi turned to look at Elder Lysania, but he saw that she also had a look of shock. But it was different from Su-Yi's shock. Elder Lysania's shocked expression was mixed with some other emotions. Seeing Su-Yi's doubtful gaze, Elder Lysania turned back and slowly took back the shocked look on her face. She said in a deep voice, "Su-Yi, this Azhara tribe. I'm afraid they aren't a normal elf tribe." Nonsense. Su-Yi immediately rolled his eyes. The situation inside the elven barrier was different, so this Azhara tribe was clearly different from the Night Song tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe. It was a pity that Steel didn't understand the situation when he came in contact with the elves of the Azhara tribe. Su-Yi didn't make any mental preparations. It was a good thing he had Elder Lysania by his side, so he didn't need to worry too much. "Elder Lysania, what do we do now?" Su-Yi asked. Elder Lysania looked at the forest with a complicated expression before waving her hand at Su-Yi. "Come with me, I think they already know we're here." Su-Yi nodded and followed Elder Lysania into the depths of the forest. The spacious lawn without any vines was very comfortable to walk on. After a while, the two of them had already walked over a kilometer on the lawn. Elder Lysania's expression suddenly changed and she stopped. Su-Yi immediately stopped and looked forward. He saw a bright, soft, and not dazzling milky white light in front of him. From the light, slender figures slowly walked out. Su-Yi focused his eyes and was shocked. The elves that walked out of the light were all elegant and beautiful. They were all wearing elegant long dresses made of white gauze, making them look like fairies. Su-Yi was stunned for a moment. When he entered the Night Song tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe, the elves he saw were all wearing clothes made of ordinary beast skins. It seemed like their living conditions were very difficult. But the elves of the Azhara tribe not only lived in a forest that was almost perfect, even their clothes were far better. It could be seen that their living conditions were much better. The last female elf to come out was wearing a light purple robe made of an unknown material, but it looked very expensive. She was also holding a green scepter that seemed to be made of some kind of jade. She had an extremely noble temperament. Elder Lysania glanced at the scepter in the female elf's hand and suddenly drew in a cold breath. She involuntarily cried out in surprise, This is the new moon scepter?" The female elf revealed a smile, and her expression became much gentler. She gently nodded and replied, "Yes. Since you can recognize the new moon scepter, you should be an elder of a tribe, right?" Elder Lysania looked at the female elf with eyes full of surprise. After a while, she gave the female elf a strange, yet noble and elegant etiquette that Sui had never seen before. "Elder of the Moon Shadow Tribe, Saratoya Shilua Sandy Moon Shadow Lysania, greets the emissary." This was the first time Sui heard Elder Lysania's full name after knowing her for so long. But what really caught Sui's attention was not this, but the last sentence that Elder Lysania said. "Envoy of the Royal Court." Sui raised his brow and looked at the female elf in surprise. Could it be that this female elf was the envoy of the Elven Royal Court that Elder Elucia and Agnes had mentioned in private? Wasn't it said that after the elves were defeated in the race war 3,000 years ago, the Elven Royal Court had already disappeared? How come there was an envoy of the Royal Court now? Perhaps it was because she noticed Sui's surprised gaze, but the female elf turned to look at Sui with a faint smile. She then shook her head and said to Elder Lysania, "The Royal Court no longer exists. The envoy of the Royal Court is only a title that has long disappeared in the river of time. This new moon scepter is only a treasure that my tribe has preserved. It has nothing to do with the Royal Court." Elder Lysania took a deep look at the green scepter in the female elf's hand and slowly nodded. She said with a sigh, "Yes, this is no longer the era of our elven race. Even the Elven King has disappeared for thousands of years, so the Royal Court naturally no longer exists. All right, Elder Lysania, now is not the time to reminisce about the past glory. We still have an honored guest to entertain." The female elf turned to Sui again and gave Sui an elegant greeting that the elves used to greet guests. "Chairman Su, welcome to the Azhara tribe. I am the elder of the Azhara tribe, Seryl's Anvril Azhara Undine. You can call me Undine." Sui put away the strange thoughts in his mind and nodded as he said with a smile, "Elder Undine, hello, it's an honor to meet you." "It's also my honor to meet you." Elder Undine revealed a faint smile and waved her hand at the two of them. "Please come with me." Sui and Elder Lysania followed Elder Undine and the 2 rows of elven girls in white dresses into the circle of light. Their eyes lit up, and when they recovered, they found that they were on a wide lawn. The lawn was still surrounded by huge trees. In the middle of the lawn, there were several statues made of white jade. Together with various stone railings, they formed a small sculpture garden in the middle of the lawn. Seeing Sui's gaze fall on the statues, Elder Undine explained with a smile, "These statues are of the last Elven King and the most important elders of our elven race. They all fell in the racial war that happened more than 3,000 years ago." Hearing Elder Undine mention the racial war again, Sui's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at Elder Undine, and finally couldn't help but ask, "Elder Undine, you seem to have a deep impression of the racial war more than 3,000 years ago. In that case, why did you take the initiative to invite me here?" Elder Lysania frowned slightly. She thought, Chairman Su isn't such a blind person. Why would he take the initiative to mention the racial war at this time? Elder Undine didn't seem to mind at all. She replied with a smile, "Everything in this world has a process of going from the bottom to the peak, and then finally dying out. We elves are no exception, and you humans are no exception. It has been more than 3,000 years since the racial war, and we elves don't particularly hate you humans because this is the fate that all races have to go through. To be honest, it's actually you humans who are deliberately targeting us elves, right?" This. Su Yi's expression froze, and he could only smile bitterly. According to what he had read about the history of the Signs continent, after the race wars, the elves had indeed disappeared without a trace. They rarely took the initiative to fight or even fight with the humans. Rather, in order to eliminate the potential threat of the elves, in the several hundred years after the racial war, the humans had been searching for the elves, wanting to exterminate the elves. So if one was talking about hatred, the elves didn't show that much hatred, but the humans had been spreading this view because they were afraid. Of course, after 3,000 years, no matter what hatred there was between the two sides, it had already faded to the point where it no longer existed. Rather, because the elves had almost completely disappeared from the continent, when humans saw the elves, they cherished them very much. 4 years ago, when Agnes took the initiative to appear in Banta City, there was a wild wave of pursuit. "All right, this is my fault. I shouldn't have mentioned this disappointing matter." Su Yi shook his head and said with a smile, "Then Elder Undine, you deliberately revealed the whereabouts of your Azhara tribe and specially invited me here. Just what is it for? If it's to cooperate with our new flyer, I'm very happy to accept. The matter of cooperation isn't urgent. Before this, I have an old friend who wants to meet you. Moreover, I believe that Chairman Su will also be very happy to see him." Elder Undine said with a faint smile. "Old friend." Su Yi was a bit surprised. Based on Elder Undine's tone, her old friend didn't seem to be an elf. When he was about to ask, there were quick and light footsteps that came from behind him. Su Yi turned around in a daze and heard the clear voice of a little girl behind him. "God! You're really tall." Chapter 671. Hearing the voice that came from his waist height, Su Yi lowered his head in astonishment and saw a cute little human girl looking up at him with a face full of curiosity. This. Su Yi opened his eyes wide and instantly determined that this was not a little human girl, but dwarf. My God, it's actually a dwarf. Su Yi was stunned and squatted down to the little girl's level. He carefully observed her and confirmed that he did not see wrongly. At first glance, this creature didn't look much different from a little human girl, but in fact, it was quite different from a little human girl in terms of details. The main difference was that it had a pair of pointy ears that were similar to the elves, but one size smaller. Coupled with their slightly short stature and obviously large and bright eyes, they were definitely exactly the same as the halflings recorded in the literature. That's right, this was a dwarf. But hadn't the dwarves disappeared from the entire continent long ago? According to various literature records, the dwarves had completely disappeared from the Signs more than 2,000 years ago. The elves had more or less revealed some traces in these 2,000 years, and there were even elven tribes like the Moon Shadow tribe that often came into contact with humans. But the dwarves, in these 2,000 years, did not have the slightest trace of them, not even a rumor. The final conclusion of all the literature, and even the judgment of everyone, was that the dwarves had completely disappeared from this continent. Perhaps it was really as the legends said, that they had gone to another continent in the depths of the endless sea, but it was confirmed that there were no dwarves left on the Signs. But now, in front of Su Yi, there was actually a living halfling. Su Yi stared at the cute female dwarf in front of him, and could not help but reach out to touch her face. The touch was smooth and tender, and he was sure that this was not an illusion. My God! Human, you actually touched a lady's face so casually. You are definitely not a human with a gentlemanly demeanor. The dwarf girl suddenly shouted. Su Yi immediately felt embarrassed and hurriedly smiled. I'm sorry, I just can't believe this is true. Didn't the dwarves completely disappear from the Signs long ago? Why are you still here? And in the Azhara tribe, an elven tribe? Hey human, first of all, I have a name, you can call me Lumi. Secondly, although we dwarves decided to leave the signs more than 2,000 years ago, not all of us were willing to leave. For example, our Tana family stayed behind. At this point, the female dwarf who called herself Remy lowered her head slightly, her face full of sadness. But now I'm the only one of the Tana family who is still alive, the others are all dead. Sui looked at the female dwarf who was acting like she was a little girl and didn't know what to say to comfort her. Although the dwarves, their lifespan was not much different from the elves, their actual lifespan was far longer than that of the elves. Although this female dwarf looked like a 10-year-old human girl, her actual age was probably 100 or 200 years old. Thinking of this, Sui suddenly thought of another question. Lumi, you just said that the dwarves decided to leave the signs. That is to say, they really went to another continent outside the endless sea like the legends say? Lumi shook her little head. I don't know. As for the existence of another continent outside the signs, it was only a conjecture made by the elders of the tribe based on their observations of the signs. The elders said that we don't actually live on a flat piece of land, but it is very likely that we live on a very large sphere. Therefore, the signs shouldn't be the only continent in this world, and there might be another continent at the far end of the endless sea. It's just that the elders aren't sure if this continent is really there. Su Yi's eyes suddenly widened, his hands grabbing Lumi's shoulders and shaking her. You mean, the dwarves didn't actually disappear? Instead, they went to another continent? Lumi was a little dizzy from being shaken by Su Yi, and it took her a while to come back to her senses. She nodded blankly. Yes, but I can't be sure. That's great. Su Yi stood up excitedly and spun around a few times, unable to suppress the smile on his face. That's great. So the dwarves really didn't disappear, and they still exist in this world. Other continents are nothing. Now that I even have a ship, I can find them sooner or later. Seeing Su Yi walking in circles, Lumi looked up in a daze. Elder Undine and Elder Lysania on the side were also a bit surprised. Although the dwarves were very rare, but it shouldn't make Su Yi so excited after hearing about the dwarves, right? Su Yi spun around for a while and finally calmed down. His smile faded, and he squatted down to look at Lumi, and asked seriously, Lumi, can you be sure which direction your people left the signs? Or to be more precise, which port did they leave from? Lumi shook her head. I don't know the exact location, but the elder said that according to speculation, the other continent should be to the west, so my people went to the west. West? Su Yi turned his head to look at the west, and thought that it was just right if they left from the Xinfei port in the Principality of Constantine. But then he thought of another question. Lumi, you said that your elder speculated that we didn't live on a flat land, but on a big ball. What's the basis? Lumi wrinkled her two short and delicate eyebrows, and thought for a while, and then shook her head again. I don't know. From Lumi's reaction, she really didn't know the details of the dwarves. But then again, it made sense. It had been more than 2,000 years since the dwarves left the signs, and Lumi was at most 100 or 200 years old, so it was normal that she didn't know these things. Speaking of which, human, why are you so excited to see me? Lumi suddenly asked. Do you think I'm a dwarf? Su Yi smiled. You can say that, but it's not just because you're a dwarf. More importantly, it's because of your dwarf's knowledge of magic machines. Do you understand what I mean? Lumi's eyes lit up. Of course I understand. Human, you're the president of that new flyer, right? It's the Chamber of Commerce that invented a bunch of strange magic machines. Yes. You've heard of me? Su Yi asked with a smile. Of course. If I didn't know about the magic machines of New Flyer, I wouldn't have begged Undine to bring you here. Lumi nodded. Hey human, I've checked the strange magic machines of New Flyer, and I think they're very special. In many ways, they're not worse than the magic machines of us dwarves. Just not worse. Sui couldn't help but smile, thinking that this dwarf was quite confident. New Flyer's magic machines were made by combining the complete mechanical knowledge from Earth and the magic knowledge from signs, but Lumi didn't have a high opinion of them. Lumi seemed to have seen through Su-Yi's thoughts and giggled. Human, the magic machines of New Flyer were actually invented by you, right? Su-Yi shrugged. Most of the credit should go to the researchers of our company. I just came up with an idea, that's all. Having an idea is the most important thing. Lumi suddenly reached into her bosom and took out a piece of paper, handing it to Su-Yi. Seeing that you invented the magic machines, I can allow you to look at this blueprint. Blueprint. Su-Yi took it, puzzled. When he opened it, he found that it really was a blueprint, and it was a blueprint of a standard mechanical structure. After looking it over, Su-Yi immediately judged it. This seems to be the blueprint for a magic airship? Lumi gave a strong nod. She even tiptoed to pat Su-Yi's shoulder as she said in a voice of praise, "You really are talented in magic machines, I didn't see wrong." Su-Yi was speechless. He shook his head and ignored the proud Lumi, as he seriously looked over the blueprint in his hand. Looking over it seriously, he could tell that the magic airship on this blueprint was very different from the magic airship of New Flyer. New Flyer's magic airship was focused on the mechanical side, and the magic side was mainly used as a driving force. But the magic airship on this blueprint was focused on the magic side, and the mechanical side was mainly used to complete the structure. As for the driving force of the magic airship, it was completely based on magic. This design made the structure and driving force of the magic airship a bit simpler because it was all based on magic. But relatively speaking, this kind of magic airship had a high requirement for magic and consumed a lot more magic. In terms of explosiveness and ease of control, this design was much better than the magic airship of New Flyer. But because it required a lot of precision and adding in the fact that there were too many magic arrays, it cost a lot to make, so it was very hard to mass-produce it like the magic airship of New Flyer. Moreover, because it consumed too much power, it couldn't be used as much as the magic airship of New Flyer, so it was much easier for people to accept. Su-Yi looked at it for a while, but he wasn't in a rush to ask Lumi these questions. After thinking about it, he asked her, "Hey, Lumi, what do you want me to do with this blueprint?" Lumi looked at Su-Yi's eyes that were normally hers, and she revealed a bright and cute smile. "Human, because of your respect for me, I've decided to cooperate with your New Flyer to make magic machines." Chapter 672. Could this be the natural advantage of transmigrators? Seeing Lumi's serious face that was like a little girl's, the first thought that came to Su-Yi's mind was this strange thought. Because of the race war 3,000 years ago, although the humans had taken control of the signs from the elves, it was also because of this that the relationship between the humans and the other races was not good. There was no need to mention the elves, but they were like fire and water with the beastmen. As for the halfling race and the legendary dragon race, they had completely disappeared from this continent. Before Su-Yi appeared, humans had very little contact with elves and they didn't have much contact with other races. But after Su-Yi appeared, he unexpectedly came into contact with the elves and worked closely with the Nightsong tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe, becoming close partners. Then Su-Yi formed a close cooperation with the Beastmen, so the Black Rice Wasteland that the Beastmen occupied had already become the back garden of the New Flyer. Even now, there was a halfling that had already disappeared in front of Su-Yi. Moreover, this halfling wanted to cooperate with Su-Yi. With so many strange things happening to him, it was no wonder that Su-Yi would have this kind of strange thought. Of course, if he thought about it, he would find that this was actually a series of related matters. The reason for this series of matters was that Su-Yi had the idea of cooperating with the dwarves, so he went to the dwarf tribe and met Agnes. Then he came into contact with the Nightsong tribe and finally succeeded in cooperating with the Nightsong tribe. Everything that happened after that was logical. Even if this halfling suddenly appeared in front of him, it was also because of this matter. Sui looked at Elder Undine and Elder Lysania, who were talking to each other on the side. He thought that Elder Undine must know that he had a close relationship with the other elves, so she took the initiative to call him here and let the halfling Lumi come into contact with him. The reason why Lumi was willing to contact him and cooperate with him was because the new flyer also produced magic machines, so they had the same specialty as the halflings. Lumi, I welcome your idea very much. Being able to obtain the help of the halflings who have a long history in magic machines, our company's magic machine research will definitely develop. But Sui paused before asking, Lumi, you chose to cooperate with our company, what do you want from us? It can't be that you just want to study magic machines, right? Nonsense, aren't you a merchant? I'm talking business with you. Lumi said loudly and confidently. Lumi said in a loud voice, I want to cooperate with your company because I want you to make a magic boat that can go to the depths of the endless seas. A magic boat that can go to the depths of the seas? Sui looked at Lumi in surprise before understanding after thinking about it. If my guesses aren't wrong, you want to go to the depths of the endless seas to find your clansmen? Lumi nodded as her expression became sad. The others in my family are all dead, there's only me left. There's no meaning in staying on the signs at all, so I want to see if I can go to the depths of the endless seas to find my clansmen on the other continent. Seeing the sad and lonely look on Lumi's face, Sui gave a sigh in his heart. Although the elves were rare on the signs, Sui knew of 3 tribes that had over 5,000 people. As for the halflings, he only knew of Lumi. Not to mention an entire tribe, they couldn't even gather a single family. Moreover, in the past 2 years, there hadn't been any news of the halflings on the signs, so perhaps Lumi was the only halfling left on the continent. This kind of loneliness, it could be imagined. Did you have this idea after knowing that our company has made the magic boat? Sui asked. Yes. Although I haven't seen your company's magic boat, I've asked Undine to gather quite a bit of information on your company's magic boat. I know that your magic boat is made of steel, so it's very strong and very big. I think that this kind of boat will be able to sail far on the seas without a problem, so it should be able to help me find my clansmen. Lumi replied. Thank you for your praise of our magic boat. But Lumi, to be honest, with our company's current research on the magic boat, I don't think that it has enough power to travel the deep seas. Lumi's eyes popped out and she looked a bit anxious. This still isn't enough? Back then, my clansmen only cooperated with the dwarves and casually built some iron ships before going to the sea. There were many clansmen back then, so they could take some losses, but Lumi, you only have one person. Do you understand what I mean? Seeing Suyi's serious eyes, Lumi was stunned. Human, are you worried about me? Suyi was stunned. I'm just thinking about it from a safe point. Look, sailing the seas isn't a simple matter, the dangers on the sea are unpredictable. So to be safe, we have to be fully prepared before proceeding. You are alone now, and if anything should happen to you, and you should meet with misfortune on the sea, it would be the end of all. Isn't that right? Lumi looked at Sui in a daze for a while before suddenly coming forward. She opened her arms to hug Sui as she happily said, The elder was right. Not all humans are bad. Great, human. No, you're called Sui, right? Sui, you're a good person, I like you. I just wanted to take out a part of my clan's magic machine knowledge to cooperate with you, but now I'm willing to share my clan's research with you. Seeing the happy smile on Lumi's face, Sui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was just being cautious as a mechanical engineer, so he raised his concerns to Lumi, but he never thought that Lumi would be moved. But of course this was a good thing, So Sui didn't explain himself and said with a smile, "Is that so? Being able to obtain your trust, that is my honor. But Lumi, I have to remind you that it will take a long time to develop a magic boat suitable for sailing the seas, and it will take a lot of time to prepare for sailing the seas. Adding it all together, it will take at least 5 years. Are you willing to wait?" Lumi gave a strong nod. "Of course I'm willing. I've already waited 100 years, so what if I wait another 5 or 10 years? She really is at least 100 years old." This strange thought flashed in Suyi's mind as he discussed the details of their cooperation with Lumi. In the end, both sides reached an agreement. Lumi would join the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, mainly in charge of the magic boat research. It was a good thing that the new flyer had just started the ocean transport business, so they were lacking talents in this area. Lumi was very interested in the ocean transport business, so this cooperation could be considered a happy one. When they talked about the remuneration for Lumi joining the Academy of Magic, Lumi didn't think that she needed it, but Sui insisted on giving it. But when they talked about the details, Sui asked about Lumi's magic power, so that he could set her salary. He was shocked. This female halfling who looked like a little human girl actually had the power of a third-grade great magician. Is this very strange? Seeing the shocked expression on Suyi's face, Lumi gave a soft snort before revealing a proud look. "We halflings are all magic geniuses, otherwise how could we have such deep research on magic machines? You have to know, even the strongest magic battleships of the elves were designed by us halflings. You can ask Undine if you don't believe me." Sui turned to look at Elder Undine in a daze, and Elder Undine nodded at him with a faint smile. After being stunned for a while, Sui returned to normal. When he looked at Lumi again, Sui was filled with joy. This meant that other than great magician Toluchi, the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce would have another powerful great magician? If Sui was included, that would be 3 great magicians. Not to mention the existence of Teacher Carmilla. With such a powerful magician lineup, there shouldn't be a single company like this on the Signs continent, right? Sui was shocked by Lumi's magic power, and Lumi was shocked by the salary Sui gave her. 10,000 gold coins a year? And there's an extra bonus? Lumi looked at Sui with wide eyes, her face filled with disbelief. "Is joining your new flyer that profitable? If I knew it was like this, I would have joined long ago. If I had 10,000 gold coins. No, even if I only needed 5,000 gold coins, I would have enough to build my own ship. No, no, no." Sui quickly waved his hand. "Lumi, you can't be impulsive. You are now the most important special researcher of our Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. You can't be impulsive and put yourself in danger. If something happens to you, it would be a great loss to our new flyer. Be assured, in just a few years, we will definitely be able to develop a powerful magic boat that can take you to every corner of the endless seas. We'll let you search the entire world to find your clansmen, all right?" Lumi's large eyes looked around before she nodded with a smile. "All right. Since I have such good conditions now, of course I will cherish myself." Sui let out a sigh of relief. That's more like it. It was unknown when Elder Undine and Elder Lysania in the distance had finished talking. Seeing that Sui and Lumi had finished talking, Elder Undine came over and said to Sui with a smile, "Chairman Su, can we discuss our cooperation now? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.